In the end, I will become a god through hard work. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 1, Running and Charm. In the wide playground, 8 high school boys in sportswear were running on the plastic track. This was a physical test for the men's 1000 meter run. For some reason, although it was only a physical test for one class, there were quite a lot of students beside the track in the playground, especially the girls. They were wearing short skirt school uniforms that were not convenient for movement. They were obviously not here for physical education class. Their eyes were fixed on the male student who was far ahead on the track. As the male student crossed the finish line, the physical education teacher accurately pressed the stopwatch in his hand. Xue Jing, 2 minutes 36 seconds 79. The physical education teacher reported the result in a somewhat incredible way. The student in charge of recording next to him was also stunned, and then picked up a pen to write down the result in the notebook. Xue Jing slowly stopped and panted slightly. There was a faint noise from the girls next to him, but he ignored it and looked at the translucent panel in front of him that only he could see. Complete the physical test of running 1000 meters. Running experience plus 20. Running LV3, 258 over 800. Increased by 20 points, a little more than usual. Then he looked at another skill on the panel. Charm LV2, 89 over 500. Someone has developed a good impression of you. Charm experience plus 1. Someone has developed a good impression of you. Charm experience plus 1. Someone has developed a good impression of you. Charm experience plus 1. Someone has developed a good impression of you. Charm experience plus 1. Someone has a good impression of you. With a screen full of prompts, charm continued to increase by +1 +1 +1 at a speed visible to the naked eye, and soon reached 151 over 500, and although the speed slowed down, it still increased by +1 from time to time. This useless skill is increasing very fast. Xue Jing was a little helpless. He looked at all the skills on his panel. Fitness LV2, 258 over 500. Health LV1, 199 over 300. Cooking LV2, 257 over 500. Running LV3, 258 over 800. Charm LV2, 153 over 500. This is what I got this month. Xue Jing felt a sense of satisfaction. He is a time traveler. A month ago, he inexplicably came to this world that was similar to the Earth in his previous life, and became a third-year high school student named Xue Jing, and inherited the memory of his predecessor. And what came with the time travel was the translucent panel in front of him. Xue Jing called it the skill panel. As long as he mastered something to a certain extent, the corresponding skill would be activated on the panel. Afterwards, as long as he continued to practice this skill, he would continue to gain experience, and his mastery and understanding of the skill would also improve accordingly. As long as he practiced, his skills would improve, and his efforts would be rewarded, and his efforts would not be in vain. For example, after he activated the skill run half a month ago, it took him only half a month to upgrade to LV3, and his performance improved from 3 minutes and 42 seconds for 1000 meters to 2 minutes and 36 seconds. It was impossible to achieve such progress without much effort, and without the guidance of professionals. But with the magic of the skill panel, he did it easily. Moreover, the level of run not only improved his understanding and speed of running, but also improved his physical fitness. Is this the joy of cheating? Xue Jing exclaimed. At this time, another male student crossed the finish line. Li Jie, 3 minutes 22 seconds 17. The physical education teacher pressed the stopwatch. This is a very good result for a high school student, but with Xue Jing's example, the physical education teacher's face was calm. Li Jie was panting, slowed down, and walked slowly to Xue Jing's side. He supported his knees with one hand, and put his other hand on Xue Jing's shoulder. He said intermittently, "I ask you to take a urine test immediately. You took drugs, right? How can you run so fast?" Xue Jing smiled, and was about to reply, but he saw several female students in school uniforms arguing on the side of the track. Then, a pretty and slim girl walked towards Xue Jing with a slightly red face. She held a stack of white towels in her hands, and her two slender white legs under her short skirt were so white that they could almost reflect light in the midday sun. Li Jie also noticed this scene at this time. He didn't say anything, silently retracted his hand on Xue Jing's shoulder, and walked a distance to the side. As he walked, he shook his head and muttered, "It's useless. The stars in the sky of our elite class can't be picked by the girls in our class, let alone you little girls." The female student holding the towel obviously couldn't hear his mumbling. She walked to Xue Jing shyly, looked up at Xue Jing's face, mustered up her courage, and said, "Senior, wipe your sweat." Xue Jing looked around, hesitated for a moment, and took the towel and said, "Thank you." It seemed that she didn't expect Xue Jing to actually take it. The girl was stunned for a moment, and a blush appeared on her face. "No, you're welcome." After saying this, she immediately turned around and trotted back to her friends. Her steps were a little excited. As soon as she went back, the friends around her immediately started to make a fuss and tease her loudly. It seemed that one of her friends said something embarrassing. The girl couldn't help chasing her and hitting her a few times. In the process, she also secretly glanced at Xue Jing a few times in the process. Xue Jing's classmates who were taking physical education class saw this scene, shook their heads and smiled, and some female classmates even made a sound, as if they were a little disdainful. Xue Jing wiped the sweat off his forehead with a towel. He didn't know if it was an illusion, or because the towel had been held in the arms of the schoolgirl for too long, but it seemed to have a little fragrance. Someone has a lot of affection for you. Charm experience plus 45. Li Jie walked up, pinched his chin and asked curiously, "Strange, you didn't refuse. Have you finally figured it out?" "Hey, let me say that good things should be kept in the family. If you really want our class." Xue Jing shook his head and interrupted, "No. Then why?" Li Jie asked. Xue Jing used one finger to spun the towel in his hand like a basketball and casually said, "It takes courage to come and give you a towel in front of so many people. If I refuse, people with a thin skin will probably have a psychological trauma." After a pause, Xue Jing continued, "If she really means that in the future, just refuse her when she comes to me alone." Li Jie shook his head and sighed, "You've even considered this? You're as mature as a social animal. It's because of you that these schoolgirls keep coming to you, even though they know there's no hope. You'd better solve the problem once and for all, and pick someone in the class to date, so that others will give up the idea. The boys in our Qingcheng High School have suffered from you, old Xue, for a long time. The schoolgirls have become widows for you, and the schoolboys have no meat to eat. Aren't you afraid that everyone will unite to launch a dark duel against you?" Xue Jing glanced at the charm on the panel. LV2, 209/500. He closed the panel, reached out and patted Li Jie on the shoulder. "I'll rely on you to protect me when the time comes, good brother." Li Jie waved his hands quickly. "That's not necessary. Please read on." Chapter to the Death of God. Qingcheng Affiliated Middle School. The full name is Qingcheng University Affiliated Middle School. As an affiliated middle school of the top university in the Outer Ring, Qingcheng Affiliated Middle School is also a key high school that ranks among the top in the Outer Ring. Students who can come here to study are basically worthy of being called excellent. After that, the administrative districts of Azyuksha were planned. The geography teacher on the podium said while writing on the teaching board, "Unlike Xue Jing's previous life, this planet called Earth Star, although the national power can be roughly found to correspond, many things are very different. The biggest difference is that at the end of the 19th century, an event that affected the world and is now called the Death of God occurred. It was also because of that event that the AD calendar with the birth of Jesus as the first year officially ended, and the new era with the year after the death of God as the first year was used as the new calendar. The history before the death of God is called the Old Era and the Old Times. Today, it is the 267th year of the new era." Xue Jing twirled the pen in his hand flexibly, seemingly looking at the podium intently, but in fact his mind was empty, and he was basically not listening to the class. He opened the skill panel, and there was no skill related to reading on it. As a student in the elite class of a key high school, his grades were quite excellent. Judging from the activation conditions of other skills, it was impossible for him to fail to meet the most basic LV1 activation conditions in terms of academics. But on the panel, Chinese, mathematics, physics, politics, history, none of them. Maybe, these courses themselves can only be regarded as knowledge, and cannot be called skills? Xue Jing guessed. The skills recognized by the skill panel should refer to the ability to have specific behaviors, and subjects such as Chinese and mathematics can only be regarded as knowledge stored in the brain, not skills. If this is the case, attending class is a bit of a waste of time. Xue Jing twirled the ballpoint pen in his hand quickly, and was considering whether to pretend to be sick and skip class, to go home to grind skills, when he suddenly saw that the charm on the panel was gaining experience again. Someone has developed a crush on you. Charm experience +1. Someone has developed a crush on you. Charm experience +1. He remained calm and suddenly turned his head to look around. His eyes met with a female classmate wearing glasses who was secretly looking at him. The other party was embarrassed and quickly looked away. She reached out to push her glasses, as if to cover up, and her cheeks flushed. Xue Jing was a little helpless. He had only activated the skill charm in the past 2 days. As the name suggests, it is a skill to improve one's own charm and attract others. The effect is that his behavior will be more charming, his expression management ability will be better, and even when the level is increased, his body will change, his figure will be more symmetrical and beautiful, and his appearance will be slightly adjusted. However, this skill, he does not need it. In this life, he can only be described in 6 words. Innate soft rice holy body. There is no need for such things as charm. He is like a human aphrodisiac when he stands there. However, this skill that he least needs is the skill that is easiest for him to improve. Because one of the conditions for gaining experience is that someone has emotions such as like or love for him. The stronger the emotion, the more experience he gains. In addition, if he takes the initiative to do something that makes people feel good, the experience will increase even more. For example, when he accepted the towel from the junior school girl during the physical test at noon, he directly increased his experience by 45 points. This is also the reason why he did not deliberately work on charm, but still reached LV2 in 2 days. You can gain a lot of experience just by walking around the street, so you can naturally level up quickly. If only other skills were so simple. Xue Jing turned his pen and thought boredly. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon, the bell rang. Xue Jing packed up his things and was about to call Li Jie to go together, but he saw a middle-aged man with a slightly taller figure and a slightly higher hairline standing at the door of the classroom and waved at him. That was their class teacher, Chinese teacher Du Shiwei. Seeing this, Xue Jing and Li Jie made a gesture, signaling him to go first. Then he put his school bag on one shoulder, walked to Du Shiwei, and asked in confusion, "Teacher Du, are you looking for me?" "Yeah." Du Shiwei nodded, looked at Xue Jing, and a hint of satisfaction appeared in his eyes. This student, not to mention excellent grades. After all, there is no poor student in the elite class, mainly because of his really good appearance. Occasionally, when there are activities that need to find a few students to fill the door, it is very face-saving to pull him over. I didn't expect that even his sports ability is so good. Xue Jing, it's like this. I heard from Teacher Chen that your long-distance running results in this physical test are quite good. Isn't this the school sports meeting next month? Are you interested in participating and winning an honor for our elite class? Du Shiwei patted Xue Jing on the shoulder and smiled. Xue Jing subconsciously wanted to refuse. He had no intention of participating in the competition, but suddenly, he seemed to think of something. He pondered for a while and then nodded. Since the teacher said so, I will participate. Du Shiwei smiled. Okay, then I will sign up for you. Do you want to run the 800 meter event or the 1500 meter event? Xue Jing asked. Teacher, how many events are there in running? For pure running, there are 50 meter run, 100 meter run, 400 meter run, 800 meter run, 1500 meter run, and a relay race. Du Shiwei counted them one by one on his fingers. Xue Jing thought for a while and said, can I participate in all events? Du Shiwei was stunned. You want to dominate all events? You are ambitious. Well, you can, but there are several events on the same day. In terms of your physical strength, can you hold on? Xue looked worried. Xue Jing nodded. Teacher, don't worry, I probably can. Even if it's not possible now, it will definitely be possible next month. Xue Jing glanced at the two skills running and fitness on the panel. Okay, then the teacher believes in you. Xue patted his shoulder again. Then let's do this for now. I'll go and sign you up. If you really get first place in all the competitions, the teacher will also be proud of you. After saying that, Xue turned around and left with brisk steps. After he left, Li Jie, who had been staying not far away, came over and asked, "What does Leo do want to talk to you about?" Xue Jing picked up his school bag and walked out of the teaching building with him and replied, "He wants me to participate in the long distance running event at the school sports meeting next month. Did you agree?" Li Jie asked. Xue Jing nodded. Something's wrong. 10 points or even 9 points are wrong. Li Jie fell into deep thought. He and Xue Jing have been classmates and close friends for many years, and he knows Xue Jing very well. Because he is a person who easily attracts attention and has no lack of attention, he has basically no interest in such things that are exposed to the public. This has been the case for 3 years in high school, and he has not participated in any activities that can be avoided. This time, he actually has to participate in the school sports meeting. Li Jie seems to have already seen the love in the eyes of the junior school girls when Xue Jing crossed the finish line and won the first place. He did not doubt whether Xue Jing could be the first. As for the result, Xue Jing ran at noon. No one in the school could compete with him. Not only long distance running, but all running related events. I will participate, Xue Jing added. Li Jie paused. How dare you? Xue, old thief, do you really want to dominate the hearts of all the junior school girls? I think you have already found a way to die. Xue Jing patted his head and laughed. Don't talk nonsense. You have a girlfriend, and you worry about the allocation of junior school girls? That can't be said. After all, I'm also a former student union president. I must have a sense of the overall situation that always considers my classmates. The two walked towards the school gate, chatting and laughing all the way. Aren't you planning to take the entrance exam for Xingde? How are your preparations going? Xue Jing asked on the way. Li Jie shook his head and sighed. The hope is slim. It's ridiculously difficult for people from the outer ring to enter the inner ring universities. I tried with the papers from previous years, and I was a long way from the admission line. Do these inner ring universities really plan to recruit students from the outer ring? It feels like a carrot hanging in front of a donkey, which can be seen but not eaten. Xingde, the full name of Xincheng University, is a municipal higher education institution in Xincheng. There are 9 urban circles in Zhuxia, and the cities in the urban circles are divided into inner ring, outer ring and edge. Xincheng and Qingcheng are both cities in the 5th urban circle, but Qingcheng belongs to the outer ring city, while Xincheng is an inner ring city. The inner ring cities are extremely developed. Even Qingcheng, a city with good development in the outer ring, can only be regarded as a countryside place compared with the inner ring cities. If you can get into Xincheng University as an outer ring person, it is literally a leap over the dragon gate. Xue Jing patted Li Jie on the shoulder. Come on. What about you? What are your plans? Li Jie asked back. You will graduate in 1 semester. Do you want to go straight to Qing University? Or do you want to try your best like me? Xue Jing shook his head. I haven't decided yet. His overall score is a little worse than Li Jie's. Even Li Jie has no hope of getting into an inner ring university, let alone him. Even if he is admitted, he needs to pay a high tuition fee to the school as an outer ring person. This tuition fee is very exaggerated. It is called tuition fee, but it is actually the household registration fee for outer ring people to become inner ring people. It can often make a small wealthy family go bankrupt. Of course, even so, there are still countless people flocking to it because it is a real class leap. Maybe I will practice martial arts. Li Jie frowned, not quite agreeing. Practice martial arts? You want to be a martial artist? This track is not easy to follow. The competition is too fierce, and it is very dangerous. You don't even have the basics. Are you going to deliver food? Not necessarily. Maybe I'm a rare genius. Xue Jing stared at the skill panel and said softly, please read it. Please read it. Chapter 3 The Cat Who Speaks Human Language. Li Jie rode a bicycle to school, while Xue Jing took the bus. After the two separated, Xue Jing took the bus, got off after 3 stops, and walked a few hundred meters to return home. He greeted the security guard, entered the community, came to his own unit building, took the elevator to the 9th floor, took out the key to open the door. After entering the door, he threw his school bag on the sofa, stretched his body, and walked into the gym. It was called a gym, but it was originally a utility room. After the skill panel was awakened, Xue Jing cleared out the debris inside, purchased a lot of fitness equipment, and turned it into a small gym. For this, he almost spent all the living expenses he saved every month. Fortunately, he did not become a member of the Xushan orphanage in this life, but had both parents and a sister who just went to college last year. Although his family was not rich, it was still happy. The only problem is that his parents are very busy at work and often go on business trips. His sister Xuan has been studying in another city since last year, which has caused Xue Jing to basically live alone. Xue Jing first did a set of stretching exercises, then stood on the treadmill, started it, and adjusted the pace to 12 km/h, intending to run at this speed for 10 minutes to warm up. As he started running, he fell into thought. I ran 1,000 meters during the physical test at noon, and I got 10 more experience points than running 1,000 meters at ordinary times. So, this way of participating in specific events is the trick to quickly brush up experience. The reason why Xue Jing agreed to the request of his class teacher Du Shiwei to participate in the school sports meeting after school was to confirm this. If this is the way to get more experience, an ordinary daily physical test can increase his experience, then participating in a formal competition should increase it even more. An hour later, Xue Jing was sweating profusely, panting, unscrewing a 500ml bottle of mineral water, and drinking it all in one breath. He opened the panel. You have completed a hard exercise. Fitness experience plus 98. Fitness LV2. 356/500. He calmed down for a while and felt the changes in his body. Well, if you just rely on your senses, you can't feel anything. But he knows that his physical fitness has improved a little. The changes in skill experience points are reflected in real time, not only when you level up. It's not worth it to spend time practicing the skill of fitness, Xue Jing thought. After his understanding over this period of time, the skill of fitness can comprehensively enhance all of one's physical qualities. It is a very useful skill, and also his key experience goal. However, this skill does not actually require him to exercise in the gym specifically. According to his observation, the way to increase experience for this skill should be all behaviors that can exercise the body. For example, when he runs, he can increase running experience and some fitness experience at the same time. In this case, he can also increase fitness experience by doing other behaviors that can exercise the body without having to spend time exercising with fitness equipment. For example, practicing martial arts. The martial arts in this world are much more developed than those in his previous life. He saw with his own eyes that in a martial arts competition video on the internet, a martial artist kicked his opponent more than 10 meters away with one kick and hit the wall and left a human mark. The action was so fast that it was unbelievable. He also wanted to get in touch with martial arts, but he didn't know where to start. Soon after he awakened the panel, he found videos and cheats on the internet and practiced them seriously, but until now, there was still no movement on the panel. The activation of skills is not something that can be done casually. You must have real things, otherwise he would have a lot of skills on him by now. There are several martial arts dodgers in Qingcheng, but the fees are so expensive that he can't afford it, and he is embarrassed to ask his parents for money because it is really too expensive. As long as I can get started with my invincible talent and amazing wisdom, it will be easy for me to practice a powerful and domineering peerless magic skill. But no matter how strong his talent and wisdom are, without a master to guide him, it is difficult for a good cook to cook without rice. The skill panel can let him go from 1 to 100, but it can't let him go from 0 to 1 out of thin air. Xue Jing rested for a while, got up and went to the bathroom. After washing his hair, rinsing his body, and filling the bathtub with water for 15 minutes, all his fatigue was gone, but his muscles were still a little sore. In the bathroom, Xue Jing looked in the mirror. This is a very elegant face, intellectual and abstinent. It is very cold when there is no expression, but as long as the corners of his mouth are raised, it is like a warm sun rising in winter, not hot, just a ray of warmth, but enough to refresh the heart. His body is thin but not skinny. After these days of skill training, beautiful muscles have begun to emerge. Because the skills enhance physical fitness in an all-round way, these muscles have no coordination, and are all grown in the most perfect direction. He looked down. Well, he has a small belly. After twisting his half-long black hair that was not as long as his eyes, Xue Jing put on his clothes, walked out of the bathroom, and prepared to go out to replenish food for the family. After changing his shoes, he walked out of the house, out of the community, and headed for the nearest supermarket. It was now 7:30 in the evening. It was already dark, most people had already eaten dinner, and there were many pedestrians on the street. While waiting for a traffic light on the road, Xue Jing suddenly heard a few screams from the side. He looked curiously in the direction of the sound. Across the road, an old Mediterranean man in a wheelchair, wearing a classic sleeveless white sweatshirt, fiddled with the wheels on both sides with his hands, turning them quickly, and controlling the wheelchair to shuffle quickly between pedestrians. Is he drifting? It's amazing that the old man was clearly drifting with a manual wheelchair, but his technique was excellent, and he turned and moved lightly and freely. After turning several drainage channels, he swung the wheelchair with a sense of smoothness like a professional figure skater, extremely smooth. When the wheelchair passed by, the wind rolled up, blowing up the skirts of the female students wearing short skirts along the way, screaming continuously, and the old man in the wheelchair even took the time to whistle at the girls, which attracted angry scolding and coquettishness. Looking at the old man's elegant back as he drifted away, Xue Jing fell into deep thought. If sitting in a wheelchair is considered a skill, this old man must be at level 10. But he encountered an interesting thing. Shaking his head, the green light came on, and Xue Jing crossed the road and walked into the supermarket. He bought some beef, pork, vegetables, eggs, ham, vegetarian noodles, onions, ginger, garlic, spices, some used or almost used seasonings, as well as some snacks and fruits. After paying at the checkout counter, he walked out of the supermarket carrying a big bag. Xue Jing returned the same way, but stopped when passing a dark alley. A small black cat with 4 white gloves jumped down from somewhere and stood in front of him. The cat did not have a collar, but there was a platinum metal ring on the top of its tail. It was not known whether it was a domestic cat decorated by its owner, or a stray cat forcibly put on by passers-by as a prank. Its body was dirty and some places were hairless, which seemed to be caused by the fights with its own kind. There were also spots of coagulated blood on its fur, and it was obvious that it had suffered a lot. After the cat jumped down, it staggered in front of Xue Jing, looked at him with its emerald-like vertical pupils, and then fell to the ground sideways. "Are you trying to scam me?" Xue Jing laughed. But the cat looked quite pitiful, and it was also a fate. He squatted down and prepared to take out some sausages to feed it. At this moment, the fallen cat opened its mouth and spoke in human language in a daze, muttering, "I didn't expect. The world of stray cats is so cruel. Go." After that, it closed its eyes and fainted. Please read more. Chapter 4 Divine Skills. Xue Jing was confused. He first suspected that he was hallucinating. Then he looked around and found that there was no one around. It seemed that no one was pretending to be a cat talking. He checked the cat again and found no device that could make sounds. Xue Jing pondered for a while, calmed down, and suppressed his curiosity. Cats can talk. Although it is a common setting in fantasy works, it is a bit weird to encounter it in reality. It is better not to touch it. He quickly took out a few sausages from the supermarket bag, tore off the skin, put them on the ground, and then immediately stood up and prepared to leave. Just as he stood up, the unconscious cat's tail unconsciously swept, and the platinum tail ring on the tail touched his finger. Divine substance detected. Absorbing divinity. Contact separation. Divine absorption failed. The translucent skill panel suddenly jumped out automatically, and 2 lines of words that had never appeared before appeared. Xue Jing was stunned and stopped the steps he had originally planned to leave. Now, there is no other way. The panel is the foundation of my life. In order to investigate the abnormality of the panel, I can only take it back." He sighed, and for some reason, he was inexplicably excited. Xue Jing leaned down, not caring about the dirt, and held the black cat with 4 white gloves in his arms. The platinum tail ring on the tail also touched his body. Divine substance detected, absorbing divinity. On the panel, the originally light blue and transparent interface, there were strands of golden light points pouring out, constantly gathering under the panel, and vaguely, it seemed that a new skill was gradually emerging. Divinity sounds very high-end. Xue Jing was looking forward to it. He was holding the cat and was about to go home, but he remembered something and turned back to the supermarket. After entering the supermarket, he bought a bag of cat food in the pet area, asked the cashier for a big bag, put the original purchases and the cat food into it, and then held the cat in one hand and the big bag in the other hand, walked out of the supermarket, and walked back to his home. As soon as he entered the door, he first put the plastic bag containing ingredients and cat food on the table, and then held the cat and sat on the sofa in the living room. Because of the previous panel prompt, he could not disconnect the cat's tail ring for the time being, so as to avoid failure in the absorption of divinity. Although he didn't know what would happen after the so-called divinity was successfully absorbed, according to the general routine, it was basically not a bad thing. The golden light spots on the interface were still gathering. Xue Jing held the cat in one hand and stroked it with the other hand. The hair was dirty and there were still some missing pieces, but if you look closely, you will find that the cat is in very good condition. The fur color is not messy, the 4 white gloves are clearly defined from the body, the whiskers are neat, and there are white hairs like eyeliner on both sides of the eyes. They are narrow and delicate. It is the kind of beautiful cat that makes people feel that it is delicate and beautiful. Little Peculiar looks quite good. Xue Jing stroked the cat gently, with some expectations in his heart. He didn't know what he was expecting, whether it was the expectation of the changes in the panel after absorbing the divinity, or the expectation that this cat that could speak human language would bring some exciting changes to his life. Xue Jing suddenly smiled. I'm still Xue Jing after all. After picking up a talking cat and taking it home, what emerged in his heart was not the uneasiness of unknown risks, but the excitement of the changes in life. This is the mentality of a young man, not the heart of a middle-aged man who hopes for stability. After solving a doubt deep in his heart, Xue Jing calmed down. While waiting for the completion of the absorption of divinity, he picked up the remote control at hand, turned on the TV, and switched to the news channel. The 37th U19 Unlimited Elite Fighting Tournament is about to begin preliminaries. The young star players from various clubs are gearing up and can't wait. Today, let us interview the seeded players of this tournament. At 2 p.m. on October 8th, a brief world earthquake occurred on Huajiang Road in Nangcheng District, Qingcheng. The magnitude was 4.1. Under the command of the ruling councillor Chu Min-ie, the masses carried out emergency evacuation in an orderly manner and there were no casualties. Kant Security Company recently announced that it has officially destroyed the large-scale criminal organization Dragon Cult. Kant's head Guan Yingzi claimed that the Dragon Cult is an illegal gang disguised as a religion. It has been plaguing society for more than 60 years. In order to safeguard social stability and protect the safety of citizens, Kant Security will never allow any lawless element. Recently, a group of smuggling gangs from the border areas have carried a large amount of illegal goods through the Edge City defense line and are heading inland. Citizens of Qingcheng, please take safety precautions. I don't know how long it took. Divine absorption completed. As a line of words popped up on the panel, the golden dots floating on the interface also dissipated. On the panel, at the bottom of the skill bar, a new skill appeared. Unlike the black words of ordinary skills, it was golden words with golden light. Twin, not activated. Divine skill, divine 525/500 required for activation. Conditions have been met. Do you want to activate? Yes/no. Divine skill. Xue Jing's eyes narrowed. It was obvious that it was not of the same level as ordinary skills. Xue Jing immediately pointed his finger at yes. Activation successful. Twin LV1. Divine required for upgrade. 2500s. Effect. Passive. Possessed lives, and can freely choose the time of resurrection within 7 days after death. Cooling time, 3 months active. Unlocked, divine required for unlocking 25/500, divine incarnation. Unlocked, unlocking condition, level reached LV10, divine 25/2000. Shocked. Although he was mentally prepared in advance and knew that the divine skills were definitely different from ordinary skills, Xue Jing really didn't expect it to be so outrageous. A ban. You're going to show your cards, right? You don't plan to get along with me as an ordinary cheat? The previous moment, the skill panel was still within the range of ordinary people, and the ordinary cheat, although the growth rate was a little faster, was still within the range of common sense. But when twins came out, it directly took him into the door of the extraordinary world. This is a skill that does not make sense or physics. 2 lives, and you can choose the time of resurrection after death, which means you don't have to worry about being guarded by the body, and you won't make a joke of resurrecting immediately after death, and then being killed again. What kind of peerless life-saving skill is this? It's not even a one-time resurrection coin, but you can be resurrected again once the cooling time is up. Although the cooling time is a bit long, rounding it off is basically equivalent to infinite rebirth. Looking at what is written on the panel, this is just the passive effect of twins. Fuck you. Why? Xue Jing felt like ants were crawling on his body. The passive skill is so awesome, so the active skill must be awesome too. But it actually needs to be unlocked by divinity. Where can he get it? And what is the effect of this divine incarnation? Countless thoughts floated in his mind, and Xue Jing's expression was uncertain. At this time, the cat in his arms suddenly trembled, and slowly opened its eyes. It raised its head, and its beautiful vertical pupils like emeralds looked up at Xue Jing, who was holding it in his arms. Seeing this, Xue Jing temporarily suppressed his thoughts, and raised his hand to touch the cat's head. He said with a guilty conscience, "Are you awake?" He did a divinity extraction without the cat's consent, and he didn't know what effect it would have on the cat. He was too excited, and didn't pay attention to it before. Now think about it carefully, it is indeed a bit. Although Xue Jing believes that his moral bottom line is more flexible and changeable, even if he realizes this, he will also secretly extract divinity for the skill panel, but seeing the victim wake up in front of him, he will inevitably feel guilty. The cat curled up in Xue Jing's arms stared at him blankly for a while, as if it had not yet understood its current situation. It turned its eyes around, looked around, and then returned to Xue Jing's face again. There seemed to be a flash of light in its emerald pupils. The cat spoke. "Meow, that sound." Xue Jing got goosebumps. Please read more. Chapter 5. Are you pretending again? Xue Jing's expression was a little subtle. Didn't this cat learn how to meow like an ordinary cat? How could it be so tight? What are you pretending for? Xue Jing inserted his hands under the cat's front paws, lifted it up, and looked at it at eye level. The cat had an innocent expression on its face, just like an ordinary kitten. You can speak human language, right? Xue Jing was frank, and intended to have a good chat with the cat. What exactly is it? Why can it speak? What is a platinum tail ring on its tail? How can it find the same thing? Why it, a magical cat that can speak, has fallen to the point of being almost killed in the world of stray cats. However, the cat in front of him had an innocent expression on his face that said, "I don't understand what you are saying at all." Just like an ordinary cat with nothing special. Meow, don't pretend. I heard everything. Speak properly. Meow. Just ask, how many dried fish do you want? Just say it. Meow. The cat licked its paw and was indifferent. Xue Jing raised his eyebrows. Are you pretending again? He put the cat on his lap, one hand pressed on the back of its neck, and the other hand reached to the base of its tail. This is one of the most densely packed nerves in a cat's body. Most cats like to be touched here, and they will be so happy that they can't help but lift their lower backs. Xue Jing's 5 fingers flexibly flipped and scratched the fur at the base of the tail. The little black cat's eyes widened instantly. Meow. It made an almost tragic cry, and its buttocks were lifted high involuntarily. Its limbs began to struggle, but Xue Jing held its neck firmly, unable to move, and could only meow non-stop. After a while, Xue Jing stopped his hand. At this time, the cat had long given up struggling, and was lying on Xue Jing's thighs, with its whole body weak, sticking out its tongue, its whites of the eyes rolled up, and panting, looking like it had been played with. However, even though it was tortured like this, it still didn't say a word from beginning to end, and always looked like I was just an ordinary little cat. Xue Jing was a little bit unconfident. Could it be that the divine absorption on the skill panel absorbed its ability to speak human language? Has it really become an ordinary kitten? If it hadn't made an extremely tight meow after it woke up, Xue Jing would have really believed it. But Xue Jing really couldn't do anything about it. As long as the cat didn't intend to communicate with him openly and honestly, he would just pretend. He couldn't really torture it to force it to speak. Xue Jing just took advantage of others, and no matter how flexible his moral bottom line was, he couldn't do such a thing. Shaking his head, he said, "Okay, let's do it this way first. Are you hungry?" The cat meowed weakly. Xue Jing just assumed it was hungry. He put the cat on the sofa, then stood up, went to the kitchen to get a big bowl, came to the table, opened the supermarket bag, took out the bag of cat food, tore it open from the opening, and poured it into the bowl. After placing the bowl filled with cat food in front of the cat, Xue Jing thought that the cat, which had suffered a lot in the world of stray cats, would immediately show off. Unexpectedly, the cat just glanced at the cat food in front of it and actually made a sound of TSK, turned its head away without hesitation, and didn't even look at it again. Huh. Seeing this scene, Xue Jing's heart suddenly moved. This reaction is not right. This is not like the reaction of a picky cat who dislikes the food. It is more like the reaction of the food in front of it is not considered in its diet at all. Xue Jing's mind flashed, and he suddenly understood. He may have misunderstood from the beginning. He recalled the words that the cat had said before. "I didn't expect. The world of stray cats is so cruel." There are two possibilities in this sentence. The first is that it is a domestic cat that has never wandered outside, so it is not familiar with the world of stray cats. It was also because of hearing this sentence and thinking of this, coupled with the fact that it was so weak that it was bullied by stray cats, that Xue Jing subconsciously felt that it was essentially a cat, but for unknown reasons, it learned to speak human language. But there is actually another possibility. The reason why it is not familiar with the world of stray cats and can speak human language is because it is not a cat at all, but a creature that can speak human language and has changed into the appearance of a cat. The biggest possibility is a human. Xue Jing narrowed his eyes, said nothing more, turned into the kitchen, and began to prepare today's dinner. After he left the living room, the cat, who was not aware that Xue Jing had inferred a lot of information from his inadvertent actions, immediately stood up from the sofa. It jumped to the ground, stepped on the cat's steps, and silently came to the corner of the living room and kitchen. It sneakily poked out half of its head and secretly confirmed that Xue Jing was indeed cooking, and then it was relieved. "I didn't expect that he heard me talking before." The cat was a little distressed, and its tail turned a little, looking up at the tail ring at the top. "God, 1391 cat tail ring. That bastard, after taking so much money, didn't even explain the specific effect of this divine relic clearly, and it can't be changed back after transformation." The cat's face showed a very anthropomorphic expression of gritting teeth. After a moment of incompetent rage, the cat withdrew its thoughts and looked at the environment of the house. "This is a good place to hide. The people from the security company would not think that I have turned into a cat and hidden in an ordinary person's home." Recalling the experience of being chased and bitten in the territory of stray cats, it shuddered. "Just stay here and wait until I get used to this divine relic and can change back before leaving," the cat thought in his heart. "But, in order not to involve this kind-hearted boy, let me be an ordinary cat." It knows that if this kind person who is willing to take this strange talking cat home communicates with it and develops feelings, it will easily be involved in danger. Therefore, this possibility must be cut off from the beginning. If there is no communication, there will be no excessive involvement. When the time comes, it will leave directly and disappear without a trace, and the two will never meet again. Even though he has heard me talking, it doesn't matter. It's all his fantasy. Just make him think that he is just a cat-loving teenager who loves cats so much that he can hear hallucinations. As long as I don't admit it and pretend to be an ordinary cat, no one can expose me. Having made up his mind, the cat nodded with satisfaction, and its tail stood up and swayed because of its joy. Xue Jing worked in the kitchen for a long time and made 3 simple home-cooked dishes: spicy fried beef, bitter melon fried eggs, and tomato and meat soup. You have completed a dish. Cooking experience plus 20. You have completed a dish. Cooking experience plus 21. You have completed a dish. Cooking experience plus 20. Cooking LV2. 318 over 500. Xue Jing opened the refrigerator, took out the rice left over from yesterday, filled 2 bowls, and heated them in the microwave. After heating them up, he took them all out and put them on the dining table. He didn't say anything, picked up one of the bowls of rice, and started eating. The cat, who had been hungry for 2 days and was trying to force himself to eat cat food, stared at the delicious food on the table. The aroma turned into an alluring little hand, pinching its nose, making it involuntarily move closer to the dining table, and it didn't even notice that it had kicked over the bowl of cat food. When it came to its senses, it found itself sitting at the dining table, with another bowl of white rice brought out by Xue Jing in front of it. It turned its head awkwardly and found that the good-looking boy was eating rice while looking at it with a half smile in his eyes, as if to say, "Are you pretending again?" Please read on. Chapter 6 Aiming. The cat felt a little painful when Xue Jing's almost mocking eyes stung its face. It just wanted to jump off the table immediately, but its body would not listen to it. After 2 or 3 seconds of silence, it pretended not to understand Xue Jing's eyes at all, meowed, lowered its head, and took a bite of white rice. There are cats that eat whatever their owners eat. As an ordinary cat, it is reasonable and logical for it to eat the same thing as its owner. There is nothing strange about it. I eat the same thing as people. I'm a person. The cat, who convinced himself, completely ignored Xue Jing's increasingly mocking eyes and showed off. First took a bite of the rice, then popped out his claws and used them as chopsticks to hook a piece of spicy fried beef from the plate. Xue Jing looked at the cat speechlessly, who was blowing on his tongue because he was afraid of being burned. After blowing a few times, the cat carefully bit the beef into his mouth. The delicious taste spread between the cat's lips, teeth and tongue. The cat, who had not eaten for 2 days, could not help but reveal a very anthropomorphic expression of bliss. With the first bite of food, the cat activated its taste buds, opened its stomach, and completely broke its inner bottom line. The cat sped up its eating speed, taking a bite of rice and a bite of vegetables, eating happily. Occasionally, it would get burned because it ate too fast and did not have time to blow, making a ruah sound. Eat slowly, I'm not trying to steal from you. Xue Jing smiled helplessly. Seeing that it was a bit difficult for it to use its claws to pick up the food, he helped it to pick up the food and put it in the bowl so that it did not need to move its claws and only had to eat. He also served it a bowl of meat soup. When the meal was over, the dishes on the table were empty, and 1/3 of them went into the cat's stomach. Considering its body size, this was a very incredible appetite. There was not even a grain of rice in the bowl of white rice, as it had licked it clean. The cat lay on its side on the table, its belly bulging like it was pregnant. Xue Jing cleaned up the dishes, wiped the table, and washed his hands, before picking the cat up from the table and putting it on the sofa. Looking at the cat licking its paws like a human picking teeth, Xue Jing coughed and said, "Well, you've been completely exposed. Can we talk now?" The cat's ears moved, and it stopped licking its paws. It looked at Xue Jing innocently. "Meow. I have no idea what you're talking about. After all, I'm just a harmless little cat." "What? You don't want to admit it after getting it for free, right?" Xue Jing laughed angrily. He stretched out his hands, pinched the cat's face, and scratched its cheeks with his 10 fingers. This is also one of the parts that cats like to be touched the most. It feels good. Meow. The cat immediately couldn't help it. It squinted its eyes at Xue Jing's actions and meowed with pleasure. It had made up its mind anyway. Just pretend. As long as there was no talking and no communication, no problems would arise. Xue Jing saw that it still refused to admit it, and there was no good solution for a while. "Forget it. Go take a bath first." although it had already taken a bath before. Because it brought the cat back, many parts of its body were stained with dirt, and it had also cooked a few dishes with heavy oil smoke, so its body was not clean at this time. Thinking of taking a bath, Xue Jing glanced at the cat lying on its side on the sofa, which had rubbed the sofa dirty, moved the corners of his mouth, stretched out his hand, and lifted it up. Elbow, take a bath with me. The cat was stunned for a moment when he heard this, and then made a French military salute with its paws, shook its head like a rattle, and turned its ears back to become airplane ears. Meow 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 meow. Where's your mother? You're going to take this bath. Even Jesus can't stop you, I said. Xue Jing snorted, picked up the cat, and walked towards the bathroom. Meow. In the glass shower room, Xue Jing moved a small stool in, sat on it, squeezed shower gel on his hands, and then began to touch and scratch the wet cat. The cat had already resisted, but it was useless. It could only look like it had no desire to live, and let Xue Jing's hands go up and down its body. Meow 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 meow. Speaking in cat language, Xue Jing touched and scratched seriously, but was unmoved. I don't understand what you are saying at all. After all, I'm just a terrifying upright ape that is harmless to humans and animals. During the process, Xue Jing tried to remove the platinum tail ring on the cat's tail, but found that the tail ring seemed to be not fastened, but seemed to be embedded in the tail, and it didn't move at all. He didn't use too much force to avoid hurting the cat. He also understood that it seemed that this thing couldn't be taken off. After all, it was a divine substance certified by the panel, so it was not surprising that it was a bit magical. After the cat was scratched all over, Xue Jing nodded with satisfaction, turned on the shower head, and started to rinse. After rinsing, the cat was soaked, and its fur was clinging to its body, which looked a little funny. Meow. The cat began to shake off the water frantically, and was about to leave the bathroom, when Xue Jing called him. Wait a minute. Xue Jing also rinsed himself briefly, then picked up the cat, and walked out of the glass shower. He came to the bathtub, turned on the hot water switch of the bathtub, adjusted the temperature, and filled the bathtub. Then he held the cat, and entered the bathtub. Meow. The water level rose and overflowed, and the man and the cat made sounds of pleasure at the same time. Xue Jing held the sides of the bathtub with both hands, and lay in it, with only his head exposed. The cat lay on Xue Jing's chest, with his head resting on the edge of the bathtub, and his tail flicked under the water, creating ripples. It squinted its eyes in satisfaction, and made a gurgling sound. HMPH, you still say you are not human? Xue Jing said lightly. How can a cat enjoy a bath so much? Meow. It was too lazy to pretend to be a cat, and just started to play, only perfunctorily meowing as a response, completely unmoved. Lying on Xue Jing's chest, feeling his strong and powerful heartbeat, the cat was a little dazed. How long has it been since it has enjoyed this sense of security? This man looks thin in clothes, but he didn't expect that he would be quite well endowed after taking them off. This chest muscle. It seems that, because it finally felt at ease, the cat also began to notice that the boy in front of it was indeed a bit good looking. Once it realized this, it was like an anthole was eaten away by a 1,000-mile dam, and thoughts began to pour out. The cat couldn't help but secretly glance at the boy's small belly. Xue Jing, who was taking a bath and flipping through the skill panel out of boredom, suddenly saw a prompt pop up on the panel. Someone has developed a crush on you. Charm experience +1 HMM. He turned his eyes to the cat with a subtle look. After taking a bath, Xue Jing got out of the bathtub and first wiped himself with a towel, then wrapped the cat in another towel and rubbed it. Then he carried it to his room, took out the hairdryer and comb, plugged it in, and started to blow its hair. While using the comb to smooth its hair, he used the hairdryer to blow through every corner carefully. The cat had completely given up resistance at this moment and let Xue Jing toss it around. Meow. Anyway, it's like this. What else can I do? Just let him do it. When it was dried, a black cat with shiny fur and excellent appearance appeared in front of him. Emerald vertical pupils with narrow white eyeliner made the cat's face look delicate and charming. Xue Jing nodded with satisfaction. The factory settings have been restored successfully at this time. He noticed that the hair that was missing on the cat's body seemed to have grown back, and the belly that was originally bulging due to eating too much has also returned to being flat. Interesting. the cat seemed to realize that it had exposed something again. It pretended to stretch lazily and turned around to prevent Xue Jing from looking at its belly. Meow. Xue Jing said nothing more, turned around and left the room, and came to the living room. On a corner of the living room wall, there was a plastic dartboard with dense small holes all over it. The surrounding white walls were also covered with scratches and pinholes. Obviously, some nasty behavior had occurred. Xue Jing took out 3 or 4 darts from the hanging tube next to the dartboard, and then walked to the door, which was the farthest distance from the dartboard in a straight line, nearly 5 meters. He picked up a sharp dart, held the dart tube with 3 fingers, and aimed for a while. Swish! The dart flew out of his hand, and pierced the dartboard fiercely, making a loud thump. The sound was very powerful, and it almost gave people the illusion that the dartboard was pierced. It didn't hit the bullseye, but at this distance, being able to hit the dartboard was already a good accuracy, which could be considered skilled. Xue Jing threw the remaining darts in his hand one by one, and all of them hit the dartboard, and one even came close to the bullseye. During this week, he would take some time to practice darts every night, hoping to develop a skill like throwing. The sound of thump, thump, thump continued to ring in the living room. During this time, the cat also walked out of the room and came to the living room on a cat step. He looked at Xue Jing lazily, jumped onto the sofa, stepped on the remote control with his cat's paw, turned on the TV, and found an animation on the movie and TV app to watch. After being completely rotten, it didn't even pretend, except not to talk. Xue Jing just glanced at it, resisting the urge to hit it with a dart, and continued to repeat the action of throwing and picking up the dart. After about 40 or 50 minutes, Xue Jing raised the dart and aimed, and suddenly had a very strong premonition. This dart will definitely hit the bull's heart. There is no reason. It will definitely hit the bull's heart. It will hit the bull's heart easily. His eyes lit up, and the dart flew out of his hand. Boom. The unprecedented loud noise startled the cat watching TV next to him, and his first up. On the dartboard, the dart pierced deeply into the bull's heart, and it was the center point of the bull's heart, 3 points deep into the bone, and it had pierced through the dartboard. Xue Jing looked at the panel. Conditions have been met. Activate the skill. Aiming. Aiming LV1. 0/300. Please read more. Chapter 7 Health. Library. At 5 o'clock in the morning, Xue Jing opened his eyes on time from his sleep. Although he had just woken up, he did not feel tired at all, and was full of energy, as if the moment he opened his eyes, he had completely dispelled his sleepiness. He opened the skill panel. Early to bed, and early to rise. Health experience plus 37. Health LV1. 236/300. Xue Jing activated the health skill a week ago. According to his observation, the effect is to enhance some physical fitness, significantly improve the quality of sleep, and very obviously improve his energy. Since the activation of the health skill, he has hardly felt tired all day, full of energy, and can do things immediately when he thinks of them. The phenomenon of procrastination has been greatly reduced, and he can fall asleep after a while, after closing his eyes, completely getting rid of the trouble of insomnia. It can be said that this is the most satisfying ordinary skill for him. However, this skill seems to only increase experience by going to bed and getting up early. He has also tried taking health supplements, eating on time, and keeping a regular diet, and other health tips, but basically nothing has happened. After closing the panel, Xue Jing was ready to get up, wash up, and go for a run, but he found that his left arm felt furry. He lifted the thin blanket and saw that it was indeed Mao, who was holding his arm with 4 white gloves and sleeping soundly. Xue Jing felt a little headache. Although he had made Mao completely expose the fact that he was not a cat yesterday, he still couldn't get it to speak. As long as Mao didn't speak, he couldn't get any information about the divine substance, and the unlocking of the active effect of twin would be a long way off. He couldn't openly say that he needed this divine substance. He was very cautious about everything related to the skill panel, and didn't intend to reveal anything to anyone. Forget it, there will always be a way out when the car reaches the mountain. He pulled his arm out of Mao's arms, got up, and covered Mao with a thin blanket, leaving only a cat's head exposed. It was still dark. He went to the bathroom, turned on the light, and started to wash up. After washing up, He changed into clothes that were convenient for exercise, put on a sports watch, put on shoes, and went out for a run. Not far from the residential area where Xue Jing lives, there is a small garden for people to walk and play. Outside the garden is a red brick road, which is specially built around the garden. It is very suitable for running when there are few people. At this time, Xue Jing is the only one there. The sky is still dark, and the street lights are not turned off. Under the light, Xue Jing walked to the runway and did some stretching exercises. Then he started running at a pace far beyond that of ordinary people, which was not at all like jogging. It was almost like an ordinary person with a weaker body sprinting at full speed. This is the speed of his jogging now. 1 lap, 2 laps, 3 laps. After an hour, Xue Jing slowly slowed down and gradually stopped. He was panting heavily, sweating all over, and felt that his feet were burning from the toes to the roots of his thighs. His lungs seemed to be grasped by someone's hand and kept kneading. Every time he inhaled oxygen, it would be squeezed out by that hand, and the feeling of hypoxia could not be relieved at all. After a few minutes, he gradually calmed down his breathing and recovered. He raised his right hand and looked at the data on the sports watch. Running time: 1 hour, 2 minutes and 13 seconds. Average speed: 18.3 kilometers. This average speed is close to the level of professional half marathon athletes in his previous life. Running at this speed for an hour without interruption is also a great challenge for Xue Jing's current body. He has been running like this every morning recently. Originally, he couldn't run like this every day, and his muscle damage couldn't recover at all. But since the activation of health preservation, his body's recovery ability has greatly increased. No matter how tired he is, as long as he sleeps, he will feel fully recovered when he wakes up. Xue Jing opened the panel. You have completed a long distance run. Running experience plus 205. Running LV3. 463 over 800. Running a distance of more than 18 kilometers. Running has increased by 205 points of experience. As the experience of this skill increases and the level is raised, everything about him related to running will be strengthened. His posture and power will become more and more perfect. How to use power to avoid injury and have a stronger burst. What posture can reduce wind resistance and run faster. How to coordinate breathing rhythm, all of which are like instincts engraved into his body. His physical fitness has also been increased, especially his lung capacity and leg explosiveness. Xue Jing glanced at the fitness skill again. You have completed a long distance run. Fitness experience plus 32. Fitness LV2. 288 over 500. He came to the chair in the garden and sat down to rest for a while. Comfortable. It was very tiring, but the satisfaction of making himself better with the naked eye gave him a happiness far beyond the fatigue. Even if we don't mention the growth rate of the panel, just allowing people to clearly see their progress is actually an incredible plugin. Just like some people can't stick to learning and exercising for a long time, but can play games all night for several days, the biggest difference is actually whether they can accurately recognize that they are moving forward. The certainty of getting positive feedback in real time, the expectation of knowing that you will be strong in the future, can make most people feel powerful motivation from the bottom of their hearts. This is almost like a saintly state, where one has one foot in the unity of knowledge and action. It was already past 6 o'clock, the sky was already bright, and people began to appear around. Xue Jing wiped the sweat from his forehead and slowly walked back home. After returning home, he took off his clothes and threw them into the washing machine, walked into the bathroom to wash his body, and felt refreshed. At this time, the cat still didn't wake up. It was obviously sleeping with him yesterday, and this biological clock was obviously not a cat. Xue Jing came to the kitchen, took out 6 eggs from the refrigerator, and put them in the pot, poured water just enough to cover the eggs, and put them on the induction cooker to cook. He poured a large bottle of pure milk into another pot, boiled it on the gas stove until it was hot, turned off the fire, put oatmeal in it, and added some white sugar to make a pot of oatmeal sweet milk. Then he took out the bread slices that he had just bought yesterday morning and didn't finish eating from the cupboard. This was his breakfast today. Because it was too simple and couldn't be called cooking skills at all, the cooking skills experience did not increase. He ate 4 boiled eggs, peeled the remaining 2, and put them in a small plate. He also had some oat milk and bread left, which he prepared and placed on the dining table for the cat to eat when it woke up. Although the cat refused to communicate, which made him very unhappy, it gave him the opportunity to transform his skill panel after all, and Xue Jing was very grateful to it in his heart. After doing all this, Xue Jing changed into school uniform, put on his school bag on one shoulder, and took out a dart from the hanging tube next to the dartboard. When he came to the door, he opened the door and turned around to throw a dart. Then he immediately turned back, didn't look at the result, walked out, closed the door, and locked it. On the dartboard hanging in the corner, a dart was deeply pierced into the bullseye. Hit the bullseye accurately. Aiming experience +1. Xue Jing left home, walked a distance, took the bus, and passed 3 stops under the peeking of the female students in the same car, which increased some charm experience. He got off at the stop and arrived at Qingcheng Affiliated Middle School. It was about 6:30 in the morning. The school gate was crowded. Xue Jing followed the crowd into the campus, but did not go to his class, but walked to the opposite side of the teaching building of the Affiliated Middle School. As the Affiliated Middle School of Qingcheng University, Qing Affiliated Middle School, and Qingda campus are connected, and students can visit each other at any time. The place where Xue Jing was going was the library of Qingda. In this world, there are some abnormal things that did not exist on the earth in the previous life. But based on various considerations, the official information blockade in this regard is relatively strict. Some information can be found on the internet, but it is all a simple introduction without details. However, not being able to find it on the internet does not mean that it cannot be found in Qingcheng University. As one of the top universities in the Outer Ring, the students studying in it are the future social elites and are qualified to know some secrets. Xue Jing is a student in the special elite class of Qing Affiliated Middle School. The elite class is a special class, and naturally there are special care. As long as the students in the elite class can keep their grades and maintain this identity, they can choose not to take the college entrance examination and go directly to Qingcheng University after graduation. Therefore, the elite class students have some privileges of Qing University students in advance, such as going to the 7th floor of Qing University Library. The first 6 floors of the library can be entered by ordinary students of the affiliated high school, but the 7th floor is not. The documents and archives hidden inside are all documents that cannot be found on the internet. Only Qing University students or students of the elite class of the affiliated high school can enter. Xue Jing went in once out of curiosity, but there were too many documents and archives on this floor, which were too messy and complicated, and there was no computer to search and locate books, so it was difficult to accurately find the information he wanted to know, and he never came again. However, this is the only place where he can find information related to divine matter at present, and he can only try his luck here. Qing University Library covers a large area, and there are several access control gates at the gate. Xue Jing took out his library card, swiped the card at the gate sensor, and passed the verification, and walked into the library. He went straight up without stopping, and came directly to the 6th floor. There was another gate at the entrance of the stairs to the 7th floor. He swiped the card again, and came to the 7th floor. Compared with the modernly decorated first 6 floors, the 7th floor of the library is plain and simple, with old bookshelves, old tables and chairs, old books and documents, and old-fashioned dim lights hanging from the ceiling. As soon as you enter the door, you will have the illusion that you have crossed time and traveled to the past. But there is a sense of heaviness of historical sedimentation that is not found on the first 6 floors. Usually, few people come to the 7th floor, not to mention that it is still early in the morning. Xue Jing thought it should be empty, but to his surprise, there was already a girl sitting in the rest area with old tables and chairs. Please read more. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 8, The Spare Time of the Strong. The girl sat by the window, wearing a pure white slim fit t-shirt on her upper body, light colored tight jeans on her lower body, and a pair of white canvas shoes on her feet. Her sitting posture was very straight, the kind of sitting posture that could not be faulted with anything, and because of this, her hips were tight, outlining a beautiful curve. Her hair was long and straight, so smooth that she could be used directly in commercials. She tied it into a high ponytail with a white hairband and hung it to her waist. Her eyes under her bangs were quiet and focused, staring at the book in her hands and occasionally turning the pages with her very neatly trimmed fingers. Maybe because she was too focused on reading, Xue Jing's arrival did not cause any reaction from the girl. A student of King University? From the perspective of age, not like that. Xue Jing looked at the girl with some surprise and paused for a moment at her beautiful eyes that were slightly purple. She was not wearing a school uniform, so she should not be a student of the affiliated middle school, but a younger college student. He did not care too much, but turned and walked towards the bookshelf area. The 7th floor has 4 large double-sided wooden bookshelves with 16 rows, plus a wall-mounted bookshelf that completely covers 3 walls, leaving only a rest area. All the bookshelves are filled, or even stuffed with densely packed old books and documents. The collection is amazing. Without computer search and positioning, and even without classification of the collection, it is difficult to find the information you want from such a sea of books. No wonder no one has been interested in it for many years. Xue Jing randomly selected a row of bookshelves and walked to the middle. He looked at the messy old documents in front of him with a headache, not knowing where to start. He picked up a book that looked relatively complete and wiped off the dust. There was no pattern on the wine red hardcover cover. In the middle was a row of white book titles written in song font, and in the lower right corner was the author's name and the time of writing the book in smaller white letters. Inferences on the overlap of 2 worlds. Author, Ning Fuan. Time of writing, New Era 87. An antique book from nearly 200 years ago. The overlap of the 2 worlds is a special phenomenon that appeared on Earth after the death of God. Just as the literal meaning, the overlap of the 2 worlds means that 2 worlds overlap. If the world is a car that keeps driving on the road, then the overlap of the 2 worlds is the collision of 2 cars. This phenomenon will cause parts of the 2 worlds to be embedded in each other's body, and the overlapping area is called the intersection area. The reason for this phenomenon is that the driver is dead. Without the driver got to control the direction, the car will run rampant on the road and will naturally collide with other cars without drivers. Xue Jing opened the book and read 2 pages at random. The theory in it seems to be full of errors and omissions now, but it was the most cutting-edge research material at the time, laying an indelible foundation for the current research on the overlap phenomenon. Although it is outdated as a theoretical material, it is very valuable as a historical material. After putting the book back in place, Xue Jing continued to search for clues that might be related to the divine substance. More than an hour later, he flipped through a few pages of the record of the Eternal Night War in his hand and put it back on the bookshelf. Xue Jing shook his head. As he expected, he didn't get anything. Because he had expected it, he was not disappointed. After sorting out his mood, Xue Jing picked up his mobile phone and checked the time. It was already 7:30, and it was time for class. Just as he was about to leave, he saw the girl he had seen in the rest area before, holding a book in both hands, walking towards him. Xue Jing's eyes looked at the girl's well-developed place, but he was not looking at there, but at the book, held there by the girl. It was a book about 3 fingers thick, wrapped in black hardcover, with a strange painting on the cover. A glowing figure with a halo on his head, countless wings growing from top to bottom, and radiating light all over his body. In his hand, he holds the blue earth star, and his head, whose face cannot be seen clearly, is facing upwards. He seems to be shouting something, and light flows down his body like blood, falling from the soles of his feet into an unknown abyss. No one in the world does not know what this cover represents, which is the death of God, or to use a more accurate and formal term, death of God. Xue Jing has seen similar scenes in countless paintings, countless movies, and countless games. Xue Jing looked at the title of the book. If God is not dead. He nodded politely and stepped aside to let the girl walk past him. At a close distance, Xue Jing saw her face clearly. She was a very delicate and clean beauty. She was not the type that would amaze people at first sight, but the type that would make people more and more beautiful the more they looked at her. The girl also nodded to him and then stuffed the book in her hand into the gap on the top shelf of the bookshelf, but because she was not tall enough, it looked a little difficult to stand on tiptoe. Seeing this, Xue Jing said softly, "Let me help you." He stretched out his hand and motioned the girl to give him the book. The latter did not refuse and handed the book to Xue Jing. Seeing Xue Jing easily stuff the book into the gap above the bookshelf without standing on tiptoe, the girl blinked her clear eyes that were a little purple and said, "Thank you." Xue Jing hummed, not caring about this little effort. After doing this, he did not stop, walked out of the library and went to the teaching building of the attached middle school. When he stepped into the class, the morning reading was about to end and the class was about to start. All the students in the class had arrived, except for a few students who were talking in a low voice. Most of them were silently flipping through books or brushing papers. Students in the elite class are still under great pressure. Xue Jing is popular in this class. When he came in, although the atmosphere during the morning reading was not suitable for talking, many classmates nodded to him as a greeting. Xue Jing responded one by one, but when he came to his seat, he stopped. His desk and chair were scratched. The wood fiber board was full of crisscross scratches, which looked terrible. There were many words written on the table, mostly threatening words such as kill kill kill, you are dead, and be careful on the way home from school. TSK, these words are so ugly. Li Jie walked over from the side, looked at the words on Xue Jing's desk, and said, "What's going on?" Xue Jing's face did not change. This kind of bullying incident happened to him. Let alone a high school student, even an adult would have some doubts in his heart. But at this moment, he was just like his appearance, without any fluctuations in his heart, just purely curious to know what happened. Just as people who are used to fitness are basically very confident, a strong body will naturally lead to a strong heart. At this moment, facing the bullying methods of high school students, he felt like a lion seeing a kitten baring its teeth and claws at him. I don't know, it was like this when I came this morning. Li Jie leaned on the table next to him and shrugged. There are also some dead mice, dead cockroaches and other disgusting things stuffed in the drawer. I helped you clean them up. It's just that these words on the table are written with oil pen. There is nothing I can do for the time being. Xue Jing patted him on the shoulder and thanked him sincerely. "Thank you. What are you thanking me for? We are all brothers." Li Jie replied and then said, "Now the most urgent task is to find the culprit. Otherwise it will be disgusting sooner or later if it happens every day. Have you offended anyone recently?" Xue Jing heard this and recalled carefully. He felt that he was quite well behaved and did not have the impression of offending anyone. "I don't know, but it doesn't matter. Judging from the words written on the table, this is not a prank by a villain who dares not show up, but a warning of threat." Xue Jing touched the scratched tabletop, and his fingertips stopped on the handwriting of "be careful on the way home from school." "I guess he will jump out by himself during lunch break or after school. Just wait. As long as a person is good enough, even if he does nothing, he will naturally block the way of others and cause resentment from others. He has experienced this in his past and present lives. There is no need to reflect on what you have done wrong. Thinking about this is meaningless. When you encounter problems, just solve them. That's it." Xue Jing sat on the chair and wanted to put the school bag in his hand into the drawer, but he stopped halfway, feeling a little disgusted. After all, he had let go of dead mice and cockroaches before and still hung the school bag on the hook on the side of the desk. Then he folded his hands across his chest, closed his eyes and rested, preparing for class. Li Jie saw Xue Jing's light-hearted look, as if nothing had happened, and couldn't help but sighed. "How cool, Master Jing. But why don't we choose to tell the teacher?" Li Jie was a little confused. Xue Jing closed his eyes and said casually, "Just like calling the police is not omnipotent, teachers are not omnipotent either. Telling the teacher may solve the problem, but the process will definitely be troublesome, and there will probably be consequences. I have a simpler solution. No need to find a teacher." Li Jie hummed and was silent for a while and couldn't help but said, "You look so handsome, with a strange adult demeanor, or the margin of a strong man." These words sound a bit overwhelming. The two were chatting and suddenly, a shout came from the door of the classroom, "Xue Jing, someone is looking for you." Xue Jing turned his head and saw a beautiful female student in a school uniform skirt standing at the door. It was the schoolgirl who came to give him a towel during the physical test yesterday. Please read more. Chapter 9 School Spirit. The junior sister's eyes were red and swollen, as if she had just cried, and she looked so weak that I felt sorry for her. She waved to Xue Jing from a distance and smiled with a forced smile as a greeting. Seeing her like this, Xue Jing understood in his heart and whispered to himself, "So that's it. Huh. Why is this junior sister here? She's quite brave. She didn't even wait for lunch break to end and ran directly to our class to find you." Li Jie was stunned. He was a little nearsighted and he didn't wear glasses at this time, so he didn't see the junior sister's face clearly. He just smiled at Xue Jing and said, "Be gentle when you refuse. Don't hurt her heart too much. In fact, it's good to try to have a relationship. This big white leg is not an insult to you." Xue Jing didn't say much, just hummed, got up and walked out of the classroom. Many people in the class noticed that there was such a beautiful junior sister at the door, and someone just called out, so they all knew that she was looking for Xue Jing. At this time, they all looked at Xue Jing sideways as he walked out of the classroom. After Xue Jing and the schoolgirl left together, the fire of gossip was ignited in the class, and a wave of discussion broke out. Xue Jing followed the schoolgirl to the stairs at the end of the corridor. At this time, because the class was about to start, the students had entered the classroom, and there was no one else in the corridor. "Let's go here," Xue Jing said. "Tell me, what's the matter?" When the schoolgirl heard Xue Jing speak, tears could not stop flowing. "I'm sorry, senior, it's all my fault." She began to tell what happened. Because she cried so hard, her words were intermittent. Under the excitement, her words were a little difficult to understand, but Xue Jing did not urge her, but just listened to her patiently and asked again from time to time when there were some things she really didn't understand. After the other party told the whole story, Xue Jing finally understood what happened. In short, this beautiful sophomore schoolgirl has a sweeter in the same class, named Pei Yaoguang. This name is very famous in the affiliated high school. Xue Jing has an impression that he is a school bully who can call the wind and rain in the school. The problem still lies in the scene when the junior sister came to give him a towel during the physical test yesterday. I don't know if the busybody told Pei Yaoguang about him taking the towel yesterday. This morning, the other party loudly declared in the class that he would teach Xue Jing a lesson. Although Xue Jing had a premonition of what happened when he saw the junior sister coming to him with tears in her eyes, he still felt a little amused after confirming it. "Senior, I'm really sorry. I begged him for a long time not to cause trouble to you, but he didn't listen at all." The junior sister sobbed and kept wiping her tears. "Xue Jing, are you sure this is not adding fuel to the fire?" He was a little speechless. If he didn't know that these half-grown children don't think things through, he would have suspected that this junior sister was deliberately fanning the flames. This kind of young man who would think of using force to compete for masculinity is obviously extremely impulsive. Hearing the person he likes pleading for others will only ignite the anger in his heart, and he will even subconsciously feel that he has done the right thing and caught the weakness. Otherwise the junior sister would not be so afraid. However, Xue Jing did not blame her. He nodded and said, "I know, you can go back." He paused again. "This matter is not your fault. Don't worry about it. I will handle it." "Is there a problem with the junior sister?" "Somewhat. But it is not a big problem. Even if Baozi, Daji and Yang Gifu were wrong, the biggest blame will never fall on them." "Senior." The junior sister was very moved. "I have always." She wanted to take this opportunity to say something, but found that Xue Jing turned around and walked towards his class, obviously not intending to listen to her next words. The junior sister understood what he meant. This was a seemingly cold and hard rejection, but in fact a gentle rejection. She was silent for a while, laughed at herself, and walked away disappointed. "So the person who is causing trouble for you is Pei Yaoguang?" Li Jie pinched his chin, frowning after listening to Xue Jing's account of what happened. "Not good, Master Jing." Xue Jing took out the Chinese textbook for the first class from his school bag, put it on the table, and casually replied, "What do you mean?" You don't get much exposure to these news, so you may not know that Pei Yaoguang is a very troublesome person. Li Jie explained. Let me tell you this, if there had been a sorting hat when our affiliated high school enrolled, he would have reported directly to Azkaban. This guy is from the martial arts club, and relying on the fact that he has practiced some martial arts, bullying his classmates is commonplace. Every other day you hear about him beating up someone, and I heard that he often molests girls. Li Jie moved his chair, moved closer to Xue Jing, and lowered his voice. These are not the key points. I also heard that this guy has killed people and raped female classmates. I remember that last semester, a girl in class 7 of the 2nd grade suddenly transferred to another school. It was said that she transferred because she was bullied by him. Xue Jing frowned. It can't be true. If he really did such a thing, how could he still stay in school? Li Jie, I thought so at first, but then I found out that the students who were bullied by him didn't dare to tell their teachers and parents, and the school seemed to turn a blind eye. So I asked the 2nd graders, and then I found out that Pei Yaoguang's father works for a ruling senator and has a strong background. In fact, if you think about it, you will know how such a bully can enter our affiliated middle school if his background is not strong enough. The ruling counselor is the theoretical top of the power pyramid in a city. There are about 30 people in the whole Qingcheng, including a chief and 3 vice chairmen. Being able to work under a counselor is indeed considered to be a powerful background. Xue Jing thought about it and asked, has he killed anyone? Li Jie shook his head. There is no specific statement on this point, but many people have seen Pei Yaoguang with a knife. If he dares to do such a thing, it is not surprising that he has killed people. Let's tell the teacher. What if someone like Pei Yaoguang really kills you? Li Jie was very worried. Xue Jing smiled. It's very intimidating. Most students would probably piss themselves when they hear this. But Xue Jing didn't think the other party was that scary. The operation of the world has its own logic. As long as the level of cognition reaches a certain level, many things can easily see through the appearance and see the essence. This kind of heinous behavior is an absolute taboo in human society. Not to mention, having a father who works for the ruling congressman. Even the ruling congressman himself cannot make a big fuss and wish that the whole world would know and do the same. Those at the top of the power still need to abide by the rules on the surface, let alone a second-rate school bully on campus. Most students have not yet stepped into society and their cognitive level is insufficient. They will feel afraid when they hear these rumors. They will add layer after layer of tiger skin for Pei Yaoguang in their hearts and become more and more afraid of him. Xue Jing, on the contrary, the more he heard, the more the tiger skin was peeled off from the other party. Some people, the more they lack something, the more they will emphasize it. No need to tell the teacher. I will have a good talk with Pei Yaoguang. Xue Jing said softly. The bell rang, and the head teacher, the Chinese teacher Du Shiwei, walked in. Please read more. Chapter 10 Stone. This morning's classes are Chinese, English, physics, and physical education. Unlike Xue Jing's previous life, Xuexia seems to attach great importance to physical education courses in education. At least King affiliated high school is like this. There are not only a lot of physical education classes every week, but also there will be no situation where the physical education teacher is asked for leave. After finishing 3 cultural classes and a short break, all the members of the elite class went to the locker room to change their school uniforms into indoor sportswear. Hey, these abdominal muscles. A tall classmate wearing glasses was stunned when he saw Xue Jing taking off his shirt. Not bad, Xue Jing. Why didn't I realize that you are so good at training before? As soon as he opened his mouth, the male classmates in the locker room immediately cast their eyes over. Oh my god. Jingyi is awesome. How did you train such beautiful abdominal muscles? Teach me. First of all, I'm not Nantong. Secondly, can you let me touch it? I envy the future Mrs. Zhu. Can you take a picture? I don't want to see it. The main reason is that I have a teenage sister at home who needs to be fed. Xue Jing quickly put on a short-sleeved sportswear and said speechlessly, can you guys stop being so gay? Haha. Li Jie, who was next to him, had changed his clothes and laughed and teased. You are afraid of even joking. Homophobia means you are a closet person. You have never found a girlfriend with your conditions. Don't blame everyone for thinking too much. Xue Jing kicked him and made him stagger. Get out of here. Good shot. In the gymnasium, Xue Jing made a jump shot from a distance, and the basketball flew out of his hand and fell accurately into the basket, and there were cheers immediately. After a simple high five with his teammates to celebrate, Xue Jing took a breath and glanced at the panel. Shoot accurately. Aiming experience +2. Aiming LV1. 78/300. The aiming skill that was just activated last night when used in a sport that requires precision like basketball is simply a dimensionality reduction attack. Within the 3-point line, he can make 9 out of 10 shots, even if his opponent interferes, and there is a high probability of scoring outside the 3-point line. Just based on the ability of shooting, he has already reached a professional level. So even if he did not rely on his physical ability to resist and suppress, he still made several classmates look hopeless, especially when the female classmates who were resting nearby were watching the game. Even though the female classmates were very reserved and did not say anything, the embarrassment of being reduced to a background board for pretending to be cool always lingered in their hearts. Xue Jing is not the kind of person who likes to show off. He originally just planned to play around and did not want to bully his classmates. This thought continued until he scored the first goal and saw the aiming experience +2. Come on, there's still a chance we can win back. In the opposing team, Li Jie clapped his hands, encouraged his teammates, and barely regained some fighting spirit. The physical education teacher blew the whistle, and the game started again. Stop him. Block his shot. Hey. The students in the elite class were immersed in the basketball game, and no one noticed that several figures in school uniforms walked in at the gate of the gymnasium. The leader was a tall and somewhat plump-looking teenager. After he came in, he actually took out a box of cigarettes from his pocket, took one out, and put it in his mouth. Someone next to him immediately took out a lighter to help him light it up. The whole process was exactly the same as the little brother lighting a cigarette for the boss in the movie. The young man pinched the cigarette between 2 fingers, puffed out smoke skillfully, narrowed his eyes, looked at the basketball game in the field, and said, "Who is Xue Jing?" Someone around him immediately pointed out, "It's him, the one who just shot the ball." The plump young man stared at him for a while and said, "This pretty boy looks like a decent man. No wonder Xiao likes him." Someone nearby said hesitantly, "Brother Pei, let's forget it. Xue Jing is in the elite class, the school." Pei Yaguang heard this and turned his head to look at the person who spoke, and the latter immediately shut up. "What school are you afraid of? Even the principal has to be polite to my dad. What is there to be afraid of? The elite class is nothing. I, Pei Yaguang, can kill him if I want to." Pei Yaguang took a puff of cigarette and spoke loudly, full of confidence and domineering. The younger brothers around him were immediately impressed by his temperament and showed expressions of admiration. "Let's go. Just recognize him. It's not easy to fight here. We can deal with him after school," Pei Yaguang said, and turned to leave first. The younger brother beside him followed behind him, looking quite impressive. After a physical education class, the experience of aiming has reached 158/300, and he has made rapid progress. The growth of skill experience is reflected in Xue Jing in real time, so the more he shoots, the smoother he becomes, and his hit rate steadily increases, making all the male classmates wear masks of pain. "Fuck, if I play basketball with you again, I'll be a dog." In the class, Li Jie cursed. Then he immediately added, "Unless I play with you." Xue Jing was packing his things into his school bag. He smiled and said, "Okay, I'll take you flying next time." Practicing darts at home, hitting the bullseye only increases 1 experience point, but playing basketball with others outside can increase 2 points for each goal. The panel really does not encourage hard practice behind closed doors. After a while, Li Jie also packed up his things, put on his school bag, walked to Xue Jing, and said solemnly, "Let's go, I'll go back with you." Xue Jing looked at his expression, as if he was going to die heroically, and felt a little funny and touched. Unlike Xue Jing, Li Jie had a horror filter for Pei Yaoguang. In his eyes, this was a thug who killed, set fire and raped his classmates. Knowing that this thug might cause trouble for Xue Jing after school, he was willing to go back together. It can be said that he was quite loyal. Xue Jing shook his head and said, "No, I'll go back alone." Li Jie insisted, "You don't have to say more. Buddy is not that kind of person. I will go with you if I say I will." "Okay." Xue Jing no longer refused. He added, "But you have to remember that I will solve the problem and you just watch from the side, understand?" Li Jie was a little confused, but still nodded. The two walked out of the classroom and walked towards the school gate. Compared to Xue Jing, who looked no different from usual, Li Jie walked with heavy steps and a worried look on his face, as if he was going to be punished. When they walked to the playground, Xue Jing suddenly remembered something. It seems that he practiced martial arts a little. Let's be prepared just in case. Xue Jing thought to himself. He lowered his head, searched on the ground for a while, and walked to a cobblestone path. Li Jie saw Xue Jing suddenly squat down, picked up a few stones, and put them in his pocket, and asked curiously, "What are you doing?" Xue Jing touched the stones in his pocket, confirmed the size of the stones, and said casually, "Let me show my cards. I'm actually the successor of Xiaoli Fideo." Li Jie, seeking to read more. Chapter 11 The Magic of Aiming. As Xue Jing and the other person just walked to the school gate, Li Jie suddenly patted Xue Jing on the shoulder and pointed at a student walking straight towards them with a serious expression. "Here he comes. That person is the younger brother who often follows Pei Yaoguang." The newcomer had semi-long hair and walked in a lazy manner. In order to show his personality, he wore his school uniform crookedly, with the top two buttons of the lining unbuttoned, his tie untied, and the sleeves of his jacket rolled up to his elbows. He was holding a cigarette in his hand, as if he thought he looked very handsome, with a smug look on his face. "Xue Jing, right? Does Pei Yaoguang know him? He wants to talk to you. Come with me." The student came in front of Xue Jing. Because he was not tall enough and did not want to weaken his momentum, he could only raise his head high and look at people with his nose when talking. Li Jie's face became more and more serious. Although he had decided to follow his inner sense of righteousness and stand up for Xue Jing, when the time came, there was still a great panic echoing in his heart. Xue Jing slightly lowered his head and looked at the other party and smiled. "Let's go." This overly calm performance made the student involuntarily reveal a trace of surprise. In the past, which student would not tremble like a sieve when he heard that it was Brother Pei who was looking for him? This person could actually laugh. However, seeing that Xue Jing was so obedient, he didn't say much, so he could only hum and walk out of the school gate first. Xue Jing and the other person followed him. This scene was seen by many students. The school gate, which was originally very lively after school, was strangely quiet. It was not until the few people gradually went away that people gradually began to discuss. "That guy is Pei Yaoguang's younger brother Zhao Junsheng. Are they going to bully him again? Who's the guy following him? He's so handsome. You don't even know senior Xue Jing? Did you study in the affiliated high school for 2 years for nothing? He's the recognized school hunk. Pei Yaoguang seems to be bullying him. What should I do? Tell the teacher? No, Pei Yaoguang's family background is so powerful. It's useless to tell the teacher. He will remember it." There was an uproar at the school gate, and the discussion was endless. "Master Jing, why don't we run away?" On the way, following the student, Li Jie lowered his voice and whispered to Xue Jing. "These are all small roads, and there are fewer and fewer people. They must be calling us to a deserted place. If something happens, we can't even call for help." Xue Jing looked helplessly at the cowardly and loyal Li Jie. It was really hard for him to be so scared and follow all the way here. He thought for a moment and said, "I have something to ask of you." Li Jie was stunned. "You tell me." "You." Xue Jing whispered a few words, then took out the phone from his pocket and handed it to him. Li Jie took the phone and nodded. The student leading the way did not notice what the two lambs to be slaughtered were doing. While smoking, he was thinking about how to deal with Xue Jing later. He felt a twisted excitement in his heart to have the opportunity to bully the elite class students who were usually high and mighty. In this way, the three of them walked into a dark alley. Xue Jing looked up. This was a very old dark alley. The surrounding walls were made of bricks and tiles. The color was dark and oxidized. You could tell at a glance that it was very old. The ground was covered with garbage and there was a faint smell. At the end of the dark alley stood 5 or 6 students in the uniforms of the attached middle school. Most of them were smoking. The rich young man in the lead was posing with his back to him, and the people beside him were looking at him with ill intentions, as if waiting for Xue Jing to come in. The plump young man Pei Yao Guang slowly turned around, staring at Xue Jing with his triangular eyes, took a deep puff of the cigarette in his mouth, and then immediately threw the cigarette to the ground and stomped it out. Xue Jing, right, he said in a low voice. As he spoke, the younger students around him grinned and took out baseball bats, wooden sticks, knives and other weapons. They have already mastered this set of deterrence methods. Usually at this time, the students they called out should start begging for mercy, and some even peed on the spot. However, they found that this time seemed different. Xue Jing didn't say anything. He slowly took off his suit-style school uniform jacket and handed it to Li Jie, who was standing behind him. Then he unbuttoned the left and right sleeves of his shirt and slowly rolled it up, revealing the well-defined forearm muscles. Li Jie swallowed his saliva, quite scared, but still followed Xue Jing's instructions, took his coat, and stepped back a few meters, then took out his phone, turned on the camera function, and aimed at the people in the dark alley. Huh, what does this kid want to do? Before Pei Yaguang and others could answer their questions, Xue Jing suddenly crouched slightly and took a running posture. At this moment, Pei Yaguang inexplicably thought of the posture of a tiger crawling on the ground to prepare for hunting in the Animal World program he had watched. So, he saw it. The tiger pounced on them like a cannonball. Almost in the blink of an eye, Xue Jing took off like a sharp arrow from a string and came to Pei Yaguang and others from a few meters away. He swung his fist and hit the face of a student standing in the front, making a bang. The latter's upper body was hit and fell back violently. He let go of the baseball bat in his hand and lay on the ground. He didn't even scream and fainted directly. Fuck, come on, get him. Pei Yaguang immediately yelled at him, and everyone around him also reacted, holding their weapons and attacking Xue Jing. Xue Jing looked calmly at the sticks, knives and other objects that were slowly attacking him. After activating the skill aiming, Xue Jing found that his vision had been greatly enhanced, both static and dynamic, especially when he concentrated. His dynamic vision, which was far better than before, could even give him the ability similar to bullet time. This was also the source of his confidence in his own combat effectiveness. The physical fitness brought by fitness and running could not make him have much combat effectiveness. If he encountered an armed opponent, he would be killed immediately after being stabbed. But with aiming, this dynamic vision that slowed down everything in front of him gave him the insight of martial arts master, just like opening the Sharingan. This was the reason why he dared to come alone to meet Pei Yaguang and others. Of course, his biggest reliance was still the twins. The extra life gave him the capital to be wanton, and he was not afraid at all. After dodging several armed attacks in a row, Xue Jing found a gap, his eyes flashed, and he jumped back to dodge while throwing a punch that accurately grazed the chin of one of the students. The accuracy brought by aiming can be used not only in throwing objects, but also in fighting. In fact, fighting is a sport that requires great precision. Although the distance of punching is very short, it is not easy to accurately hit an opponent with dodge ability in a chaotic fight. Therefore, the accuracy of punching is also an important indicator to measure the combat effectiveness of a boxer. Now, Xue Jing, who has almost no actual combat experience, has reached a rather outrageous level of punching accuracy with the addition of aiming skills. Aiming, a skill that seems to be only used for throwing and shooting on the surface, is actually extremely terrifying for the addition of unarmed combat power. The student who was hit on the chin immediately felt his brain shaking back and forth in his skull. The world turned upside down, and he fell to the ground limply. Chen Heyo, what are you doing? Are you acting here? This punch was so fast and so hidden that no one noticed it, except Xue Jing, who threw the punch, and Chen Heyo, who got hit. Pei Yaguang only saw the other party swinging a baseball bat and being dodged by Xue Jing, and then immediately falling to the ground, just like a play, and he couldn't help but curse. Damn it, everyone, get out of the way, I'll do it. Seeking follow-up reading. Chapter 12 Fighting, the Price. Pei Yaguang stretched out his hand to push away the crowd, wanting to personally deal with Xue Jing. Although he was a little surprised by the unexpectedly strong fighting power of this pretty boy, Pei Yaoguang was confident that he would never be his opponent. He had been to the dojo to practice martial arts and received the true teachings. However, just as he walked to the front, before he could say a few more harsh words, his eyes suddenly went black and he felt a sharp pain in his left eye. Ah! Pei Yaoguang covered his left eye and screamed, blood flowing from his fingers. He said angrily, "Despicable villain." But Xue Jing took out a pebble the size of a quail egg from his trouser pocket, threw it casually, and accurately hit Pei Yaoguang's left eye, hitting a weak spot. Pei Yaoguang was extremely furious, and he forced himself to endure the pain in his left eye, only opened his intact right eye, and rushed towards Xue Jing. He threw a backhand punch at a very fast speed, but because he only had vision in his right eye, he made a mistake in determining the distance. Not only did he miss Xue Jing, who was dodging, but he also accidentally hit the wall with his fist. Bang! With a crisp sound, a cracked hole appeared in the brick wall. Seeing the power of this punch, Xue Jing's eyes widened. Is this martial arts? Xue Jing took 2 steps back and took out a pebble from his pocket. Pei Yaoguang saw this, and the psychological shadow of his left eye being broken immediately surged into his mind. He couldn't help but reach out to cover his remaining right eye. But Xue Jing did not throw the stone. Instead, he imitated the moves in the martial arts video and turned around to kick Pei Yaoguang's head. Although the latter reacted in time and stretched out his hand to block, the power of this kick was beyond his expectation. It directly pressed down his blocking arm and hit his head, causing him to stagger. He has also practiced martial arts? Pei Yaoguang felt the power of this kick and was shocked. No, that's not right. This is pure brute force, without Jin. That's even more wrong. He has never practiced martial arts, but he only used brute force to suppress my Jin. Question mark? Is this a high school student? Xue Jing didn't know what Pei Yaoguang was thinking, otherwise he would have teased him a little bit, asking him if he understood the value of the leg explosive power brought by running. After he succeeded in the first strike, he immediately pursued the victory, bullied him, and kept punching and kicking Pei Yaoguang. Pei Yaoguang was unable to adjust his breathing for a while under Xue Jing's continuous pursuit, which resulted in him being unable to use his strength. He could only passively take the beating and keep parrying. Xue Jing used his hands and feet together, and the more he fought, the smoother and more excited he became. He kept using the fighting moves he had carefully learned from the video in the previous month, and gradually, he became more and more proficient. Pei Yaoguang's younger brothers beside him were all stunned. It was the first time they saw Brother Pei in such a mess, being beaten like a dog. Not far away, Li Jie, who was recording the video with his mobile phone, was shaking with excitement and could not speak. Master Jing, Dad Jing, God Jing. After an unknown amount of time, Xue Jing suddenly had an idea. He had originally been punching and kicking randomly without any rules, but suddenly he integrated it and connected with a natural right swing punch. The fist bypassed Pei Yaoguang's two-handed defense circle at a very tricky angle, passed through the gap, and sank into Pei Yaoguang's face. With the sound of bone cracking, Pei Yaoguang was knocked off the ground by the swinging punch and fell backwards. Conditions have been met. Activate the skill. Fighting. Xue Jing maintained the posture of punching, staring at his fist in a daze. His muscles were numb and itchy, and kept squirming, and his internal structure began to change. The strength increased, the flexibility was stronger, and it was more suitable for exerting force. It was as if he had suddenly taken off a heavy iron armor, and he felt as light as a swallow. Not only that, after he stood up straight, there was a crisp sound of countless bones rubbing against each other, and he suddenly grew a little taller. This was because the skeleton had changed, becoming thicker and harder, causing the whole person to be proportionally enlarged, as if it was photoshopped. Brother Pei. Several younger brothers exclaimed, looking at Pei Yaoguang lying on the ground, his nose sunken into his face, and he was in a terrible state. Clank, clank. Everyone involuntarily dropped their weapons and looked at Xue Jing in fear. Xue Jing closed his eyes and concentrated, feeling the changes in himself. The scene was quiet for a while. After a while, Xue Jing opened his eyes and looked at Pei Yaoguang's brothers calmly. The people who were swept by his eyes, like herbivores being stared at by top predators, all had their legs softened and fell to the ground. Xue Senior, one of them said with trembling lips. However, before he finished speaking, Xue Jing interrupted and said, "Pick it up." Huh. Several people were puzzled. "I told you to pick up the weapons." Xue Jing's tone was calm, and several students immediately felt cold in their hearts, just like a child who was frightened by his suddenly majestic father, and they couldn't help but pick up the weapons thrown on the ground. "Attack," he ordered. Several students looked at each other, not daring to move at all. "I'll only count to 3. Xue Jing's eyes were cold. 1, 2. One of the students couldn't bear the pressure, raised the bat in his hand like crazy, and swung it at Xue Jing. After someone took the lead, others, influenced by the herd mentality, also rushed towards Xue Jing. Bang, bang, bang. Several students scattered like torn sacks, and each of them had a sunken fist or footprint on their face. In the silent dark alley, students in the affiliated high school uniforms were lying crookedly. Some fainted, some covered their wounds and groaned. Only Xue Jing was left standing. He had a cold and intellectual appearance, and there was no trace of fighting on his body. His clothes were just a little messy. With the surrounding scene, he looked like a suit thug in a movie, with a contrast of elegance and violence. Li Jie looked at this picture, stunned for a long time, slowly came back to his senses, and pressed the recording stop button on his mobile phone. He walked to Xue Jing, wanting to say something, but didn't dare to talk. Xue Jing saw that he was hesitant to speak, smiled and said, "How about it, handsome or not?" As usual, the gentle tone slightly diluted the violent impression just now. Li Jie's expression eased a little and smiled. "Handsome, so handsome. From today on I'm the iron-blooded Jing." Xue Jing patted his head. "Don't give me that." He reached out to take the phone. "Let me see how it's recorded." In the video, starting from Xue Jing walking into the dark alley, the process was recorded very clearly, except for some trembling clips caused by Li Jie's hands shaking when he was excited. The video was well shot. He also followed Xue Jing's instructions and turned off the recording and only recorded the video. When the video was played to the time when several students were threatened by Xue Jing and picked up their weapons, because there was no recording, it looked like several people were not giving up and picked up their weapons and continued to attack Xue Jing. Li Jie asked in confusion, "Why do you do that?" Xue Jing said calmly, "According to the laws of the country, when the opponent is armed and intends to commit a violent crime, the victim has unlimited right to self-defense." Li Jie scratched his head and said, "They had already surrendered, right? What does their surrender have to do with me?" Xue Jing seemed to be talking to Li Jie, but also seemed to be talking to himself. People always have to pay a price for doing wrong. Seeking follow-up reading. Chapter 13 Strength. Pei Yaguang had a dream. In his dream, he had a happy family. Although his father was as serious as ever, he was always proud of him. His mother would always secretly give him pocket money without telling his father, and touch his head to tell him that she loved him. The brothers in the dojo took him as the leader, and he became a world-famous martial arts genius, attracting everyone's attention. He would not be ignored by his father, as if he did not exist. His mother was still alive, and he would not always be regarded as a foil for his genius brother who went to the inner ring city, nor would he have the experience of being humiliated repeatedly in the dojo and running away. Everything was so beautiful. The father in the dream seemed to be saying something to him. Pei Yaguang tried hard to hear clearly, but he could not hear it. His father said it many times, and seemed to be impatient, and slapped him. Pa. Pei Yaguang woke up, and felt his right cheek burning. "Hey." Xue Jing squatted down, looked at Pei Yaguang, who was lying on the ground with his eyes open, but still a little confused, and slapped him again. Pa. The palm prints on both sides of his face were symmetrical. Pei Yaguang, right? You have something to talk to me about. What is it? Tell me. Xue Jing said. His tone was cold. Pei Yaguang. After waking up and realizing the current situation, Pei Yaguang was silent for a while, with a wry smile on his face. No, I'm fine. Xue Jing nodded. I'm glad you're fine. But you're fine now. I have something to talk to you about. Pei Yaguang touched his nose, that was sunken into his face, and he gasped in pain. But when he heard Xue Jing's words, He hurriedly said, you tell me, you tell me. He was not a tough person. He had been bullied countless times since he was a child, and he had long learned to be humble and swallow his anger. Although he was used to being domineering after entering the attached middle school and almost forgot the past, now Xue Jing's two slaps successfully awakened his muscle memory. He did not use his family background to threaten again. The students in the attached middle school all knew that he had a background. Since Xue Jing dared to beat him, it meant that he was not afraid. Whether he was not afraid because he had something to rely on, or he was simply brave, he was in trouble now. He could only admit his defeat. Xue Jing looked down at him and asked, I heard that you killed someone. Did you bully female classmates? Pei Yaguang smiled and said, no, they are all rumors. Then what about the girl who transferred to another school last semester? I was pursuing her, but I really didn't do that kind of thing. The girl transferred because she was too scared. If she really did it, the school wouldn't have expelled me until now. At this point, Pei Yaguang glanced at the younger brothers lying beside him, hesitated for a while, and whispered, don't tell anyone, I'm still a virgin. Xue Jing slapped him in the face. Slap, I don't want to hear this kind of useless information. Pei Yaguang covered his face and said, yes. Since there was no such thing, why didn't you clarify it? Clarification may not be useful, and, with such rumors, my classmates are very afraid of me. I think it's cool. Xue Jing slapped him in the face again. Speechless, you are mentally retarded, aren't you? You are taking on the reputation of a rapist. Pei Yaguang didn't dare to talk back. You are right. Be a good student in the future. Don't do these empty things. Go back and write a self-criticism. Clearly state what you have done and what you haven't done. Recite it 10 times in front of the whole class during the morning reading tomorrow, and ask your younger brother to take a video. I need to check it later. Pei Yaguang said in embarrassment. Oh, this. Pei Yaguang covered his face with one hand and waved his other hand repeatedly. I will write it when I go back. Xue Jing hummed and asked casually, by the way, the punch you hit the wall was quite powerful. What happened? Pei Yaguang answered honestly, I have practiced martial arts, and I used strength in that punch just now. Xue Jing asked curiously, strength? Is it something like the internal force in martial arts novels? Pei Yaguang nodded first, then shook his head. Strength, also known as internal strength, is not some supernatural energy, but a way of using physical strength. By mobilizing one's own muscles, tendons, blood, breathing, etc., and cooperating with each other. The technique of squeezing out the potential that the body already possesses is strength. Pei Yaguang recalled what the master in the dojo had taught him and explained. In scientific terms, the essence of strength is kinetic energy. The various organs inside the body cooperate with each other to accumulate kinetic energy, and then use moves to knock the accumulated kinetic energy out of the body. The power is much greater than that of ordinary punches and kicks. I heard that some powerful martial artists use strength in an exaggerated way, and can even punch through the armor of a tank with their flesh and blood. I don't know if it's true. Xue Jing pinched his chin and said nothing. Pei Yaguang understood immediately upon seeing this, and hurriedly said, if you are interested, I can teach you, although I only know some basic techniques. Seeing that he was so understanding, Xue Jing patted him on the shoulder. His expression softened a little. Then thank you for your help. Pei Yaguang said cautiously, no, but can you please skip writing a self-criticism and reciting it in class? Xue Jing thought for a moment and said, no, but you don't have to read it 10 times. Just once will be fine. Pei Yaguang felt that there was no difference between 10 times and once, and both would result in a loss of dignity. How could he give in like this? However, he did not dare to refute, and could only laugh dryly. Thank you. Okay. Xue Jing stood up. That's it. I'll go to you to learn strength when I'm free this afternoon or tomorrow. Study hard and be a serious student. Don't let me hear you bullying anyone again. Pei Yaguang, all up to you. After Xue Jing left the dark alley, the younger brothers lying on the ground pretending to be unconscious slowly got up, knocked their heads, and groaned in pain, all looking like they had just woken up. Hey, brother Pei, where is that Xue? Senior Xue? Pei Yaguang sat up, touched his school uniform pocket, took out a box of wrinkled cigarettes, wanted to light one, but felt that he didn't have the interest, so he sighed. From now on, you have to call him Brother Jing. The younger brothers looked at each other and could only agree. The scene fell silent for a moment. Pei Yaguang's eyes were filled with contemplation. He has never practiced martial arts, but he has this kind of physical quality. He should be considered as having a good foundation, as the teacher in the dojo said. Same as my elder brother. I don't know if he was beaten or what. Pei Yaguang had a hunch that Xue Jing was definitely not an ordinary person. Words like clinging to someone powerful and following the dragon flashed through his mind, but the limits of his vision and cognition made it impossible for him to sort out the pros and cons. After a long while, he shook his head. Forget it, don't think about it. Anyway, I just need to have a good relationship with him. Pei Yaguang decided to follow his intuition. Please read on. Chapter 14. Fighting. Awesome. After letting Li Jie go back by himself, Xue Jing also walked to the bus stop, ready to go home. On the way, he opened the panel and checked his gains this time. You have experienced a battle. Fitness EXP plus 109. You have experienced a battle. Aiming EXP plus 50. You have experienced a battle and feel very happy. Health EXP plus 33. Conditions have been met. Activate skills. Fighting. You have experienced a battle. Fighting EXP plus 68. Fitness LV2. 431 over 500. Health LV1. 269 over 300. Cooking LV2. 279 over 500. Running LV3. 502 over 800. Charm LV2. 398 over 500. Aiming LV1. 208 over 300. Fighting LV1. 68 over 300. First of all, the experience points. The fitness skill directly increased by more than 100. He could only get this number after working hard in the gym for an hour, but now he got these experience points just by fighting a not so hard fight. Aiming gained 50 experience points, which should include his use of dynamic vision in battle and aiming when punching. In addition, he hit Pei Yaguang's left eye with a stone, which was also a far better gain than usual exercise. What made Xue Jing most nervous was that the experience of health preservation actually increased by more than 30 points. This skill, which could only gain experience by going to bed early and getting up early before, actually gained experience in a fight. What? Fighting is a health preserving exercise, right? However, Xue Jing looked at the happy mood on the panel prompt and thought it made sense. A very important point in health preservation is to maintain a good mentality. The influence of mentality on the body is unquestionable. We often hear about some seriously ill patients who have miraculously recovered because of their very good mentality. After the fight, he really felt very refreshed and had a hearty pleasure. Fighting, cool. It seems that I have to do something that makes me happy in the future. The large amount of experience points once again proved that the panel does not encourage closed door work, and you still have to move around more outside. Finally, there is the newly activated skill, fighting. Xue Jing really didn't expect to be able to activate a skill directly linked to combat power here. I thought that the previous month's training according to the video was a waste of effort, but I didn't expect that all the accumulation would burst out at this moment. In the quad path, seeing that there was no one around, Xue Jing raised his legs high and split, and raised his right foot to form a vertical split. At this moment, he could hardly feel the pain of being pulled between his thighs. This was the flexibility he absolutely did not have before. And after the leg raised above his head stopped, he did not feel a trace of effort, and the only remaining left foot standing alone was also quite balanced and very stable. Fighting changed his body structure. People's bodies will change imperceptibly due to different living habits and exercise methods. For example, the body structures of gymnasts and weightlifters are completely different. Years of training have made their body structures highly compatible with their professions. One is light and flexible, and the other is strong and powerful. After the fighting skill was activated, Xue Jing's body structure was specialized, from an ordinary person's structure to a structure suitable for fighting. In addition to the basic physical fitness bonus, reaction speed, explosive power, flexibility, resistance to blows, agility, fist feeling, sense of balance, all abilities related to fighting, have also been enhanced to varying degrees. This skill only strengthens my fighting ability, but does not allow me to directly master fighting skills. Xue Jing pondered. So, in fact, similar to courses such as Chinese, mathematics, and physics, skills are also knowledge, not skills themselves. Fighting can allow me to better control skills, but it cannot instill skills into me out of thin air. Rather than calling it a fighting skill, it is more like a fighting talent. In fact, other skills are almost the same. Cooking also strengthens his control of heat and the use of kitchen utensils, but does not directly give him recipes. Fitness does not allow him to have fitness knowledge, but only strengthens his body. The same is true for running, aiming, charm, and health preservation. They only strengthened his related abilities, but did not directly instill knowledge in him. Anyway, I was satisfied. Xue Jing looked happy. This feeling of becoming stronger is really addictive. The body, which was already as light as a swallow due to the strengthening of fighting, felt even lighter. Go home and pet the cat. Taking the bus to the street, where his community belongs, Xue Jing did not go home immediately, but went to the supermarket to buy some food, and then return home. He took out the key, and turned the door lock. After opening the door, he found the cat squatting at the door, as if waiting for him. As soon as he saw him come in, the cat immediately meowed, and its tail with the tail ring, swayed gently behind it, saying hello. Putting the school bag and the food in the bag on the table in the living room, Xue Jing squatted down, pinched the cat's head with both hands, and scratched its cheeks left and right. Kitty, do you want to be touched? Huh? The cat wanted to struggle, but immediately fell into this superb skill, and squinted his eyes involuntarily. Meow, the cat's head felt good to touch. Xue Jing stroked it for a while, and then stopped with a sense of satisfaction. Then he pinched its cheek with one hand and smiled. Are you hungry? Huh? Although he knew that the cat in front of him was most likely a human, in front of such a cute little animal, Xue Jing's tone was still somewhat childish, as if he was teasing a child. Meow, the cat stretched out two white gloves and pushed, trying to break free from Xue Jing's hand pinching its cheek, but it was useless. It could only meow helplessly, indicating that it was indeed hungry. Xue Jing smiled, let the poor cat go, picked up the ingredients on the table, and went into the kitchen. The cat showed a very anthropomorphic dissatisfaction on his face, and rubbed his sore cheek with his claws. Stupid human, you are not gentle or heavy. The cat, who had somewhat forgotten that he was not a cat, thought angrily. He walked with cat steps to the corner of the living room leading to the kitchen and secretly glanced at Xue Jing. After confirming that he was busy, he immediately rushed into Xue Jing's room. Xue Jing came back too suddenly just now, and it had not cleaned up some of the loose ends. After entering the room, the cat jumped onto the computer desk and moved the mouse with difficulty with its claws. It pressed the keyboard with one claw, then cleared the browsing history, uninstalled a strange software, restored the computer to the state of nothing happened, and then clicked shut down. After doing all this, the cat breathed a sigh of relief, left the room quietly, came to the living room, jumped onto the sofa, curled up lazily, put its claws on the remote control, and turned on the TV. Shang Mingyang, chief of the Qingcheng Security Department, said that the police have confirmed the escape route of this group of smuggling gangs at the border, and they are very likely to pass through Qingcheng. The security department has currently issued a yellow safety alert. Citizens are requested to be careful about their personal safety. In the kitchen, Xue Jing's cell phone suddenly rang. He put down the soy sauce and soup spoon in his hand, washed his hands, wiped them on his apron, and took out his cell phone from his pocket. Xue Jing glanced at the caller ID. It was a number without any remarks, but he knew it by heart. He pressed the answer button and said, "Hello mom, what's wrong? Please read on, and please vote for me monthly." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 15 Xue 1. Son, have you eaten yet? The gentle voice of his mother Nanjiao came from the receiver of the mobile phone. Xue Jing smiled. turned on the hands-free mode of the mobile phone, and placed it on the hanging basket next to the stove. While busying himself, he said, "Not yet, what's the matter? You called me suddenly." Although his parents in this life are often away on business, they love their 2 children at home as much as other families do. All the money they earn from hard work is spent on their children. You can call, even if you have nothing to do. I want to hear my own son's voice, but I can't. Xue's mother Nanjiayu pretended to be angry. You are right, mine. Xue Jing immediately admitted defeat. Nanjiayu then smiled and asked about Xue Jing's recent situation. The two chatted about family matters for a long time. Your dad and I should come back around New Year's Day and bring you a gift. Also, be careful when you go to school and come home recently. Don't run around. It's best to stay at home. I just saw the news that a group of smuggling gangs from the border areas may be in Qingcheng. These people are desperate. If you find anything wrong outside, don't get close. Nanjiayu warned seriously. Xue Jing immediately realized that this was the purpose of her call. He comforted her. Don't worry, Mom, I know what's going on. If something really happens, I will run faster than a dog. That's good. Nanjiayu expressed satisfaction and then seemed to suddenly remember something and asked, by the way, have you called your sister recently? Xue Jing, I haven't called for half a month, but I did chat on WeChat a few days ago. What happened? Nanjiayu was silent for a while and said, yesterday afternoon, Wanwen suddenly called me and said she missed me and your dad. Isn't that normal? Xue Jing asked in confusion. It's normal, but I always feel something is wrong. This child has the same character as your father. He looks lively at ordinary times, but in fact, he likes to keep things to himself and not let others know. Maybe it's my mother's intuition. I always feel a little uneasy. Son, ask her when you have time. Wanwen and you have a good relationship since childhood, and you are of the same generation. If she really encounters something, she may tell you. Xue Jing thought about it and agreed. Well, don't worry, Mom, I will ask her carefully. After talking on the phone with Nanjiayu, Xue Jing's eyes showed thoughtfulness. Sister Xuan is a very cheerful and beautiful person. She has been a celebrity in the school since she was a child. She is definitely on the list of school beauties. Her grades have always been very good. Although she failed to get into the inner ring, she also went to a top university in the outer ring that ranks higher than King University. She has always been a person who makes people feel at ease. But Xue Jing, who grew up with her, knew that she was far from being as perfect as she seemed. If she was not forced to get up, she would definitely stay in bed. She liked to use tricks when playing games, had a very bad gambling character, and never wanted to admit defeat. She could bark without any pressure when she was told that she was a puppy. She would also trick her female classmates into inviting her to dinner in his name by saying, I'll introduce my handsome brother to you. But her biggest shortcoming was what Xue's mother said, that she liked to keep things to herself when she encountered something. Xue Jing was a little worried. After thinking about it, he picked up his phone, entered a number, and his finger stayed on the dial button, but he didn't press it. Instead, he cut out the dial interface and put away his phone. Let's call at night. He decided to call his sister Xuan in the dead of night. That time period was when people had a strong desire to talk. After putting away his phone, he continued to work in the kitchen, cooked a pot of rice, and made 3 dishes. His cooking skills improved by more than 50 points again. After having lunch with the cat, Xue Jing picked up the cat that was lying on the ground after eating too much, walked into his room, sat down on the computer chair, and pressed the power button. With one hand touching the cat's belly that was too lazy to move, and the other hand on the mouse, Xue Jing planned to find some information about strength. He opened the browser and entered a commonly used search engine website. Just as he was about to type on the keyboard, his eyes suddenly moved. The computer keyboard Xue Jing used was black and very resistant to dirt, and it was difficult to see ordinary dust and stains. But after activating the aiming skill, his eyesight was extremely strong, so he could see things that ordinary people could not see. He clearly saw that the gaps in the keyboard were covered with undetectable black and white hair. Is this cat hair? Xue Jing looked at the cat in his arms calmly. This little thing touched my computer? After thinking about it, Xue Jing did not say anything, pretending that he did not notice it, and began to look for information about strength. After skipping many useless ads and seeing wrong information, Xue Jing finally found some information on a relatively professional question and answer platform similar to a certain website. More than 10 minutes later, he was so lost in thought that the cat in his arms sat up on his lap and looked at the web page. Looking for martial arts information? Does he want to practice martial arts? The cat thought as he read. This half-baked article is all pretending to know, and it can only fool laymen. What about practicing to a high level can produce supernatural powers? Is that practiced without taking bank drugs and implants? Even the limit breaker who jumped over the dragon gate is just a mortal body. There is no human miracle in this world, only ruthlessness and technology. The cat raised his head and looked at Xue Jing's soft chin. If he is really interested in martial arts, after I leave, I can introduce him to that person, just as if it is a rent for me to live here. The cat yawned as he thought about things. After eating, the cat was sleepy. It curled up on Xue Jing's thighs, and the nose was filled with the reassuring smell of the boy, and it slowly fell asleep. After noticing that the cat was breathing slowly and had fallen asleep, Xue Jing remained calm and exited the website. He opened the search engine, typed in screen recording software that can be hidden, and after selecting for a while, he successfully downloaded a screen recording software that met the requirements. He set it to turn on automatic startup, automatic recording, then restarted the computer, looked at the effect, and found that there was no problem, then turned off the computer. After doing these things, Xue Jing gently picked up the cat and put it on his bed, then walked out of the room lightly. In the gym, Xue Jing looked at the barbell on the bench press rack in front of him. This is a standard barbell bar, weighing 20 kilograms, with two 20 kilogram barbell plates hanging on each side, which together weigh exactly 100 kilograms. This is the weight he uses for his daily bench press exercises. If he challenges his limits, he can actually add about 20 kilograms. Xue Jing thought about it, picked up two 15 kilogram barbell plates from the yoga mat full of barbell plates on the ground, installed them on the bar, and picked up two more 5 kilogram plates. In this way, the weight of the barbell reached 140 kilograms. Xue Jing lay on the bench press rack, held the barbell with both hands, took a deep breath, took the barbell off the hook, put it on his chest, and then exerted force. The muscles instantly tightened and lifted it. The barbell weighing 140 kilograms was slowly lifted, and there was almost no tremor during the lifting process. It was very stable, and it was obvious that there was still some spare strength. After successfully lifting it, Xue Jing did not stop, but repeatedly bench pressed until he finished a set of 9, and then put the barbell back on the hook. He panted slightly and felt happy. After activating fighting, my physical fitness has been greatly enhanced. In addition to the more than 100 fitness experience points I got after the fight, my bench press limit weight has increased by about 20 to 30 kilograms. This weight may not seem too much, but you have to know that there is a diminishing marginal effect in human exercise. The closer you get to the limit of the human body, the more difficult it is to increase your strength. If a person works hard, it may only take 2 or 3 years to go from 60 kilograms to 120 kilograms on the bench press, but to reach 140 kilograms, it is not a matter of hard work. You may not be able to do it, even if you are given 10 or 8 years or even a lifetime. Therefore, the 20 to 30 kilograms of bench press weight that Xue Jing increased is of great value. After trying the bench press, Xue Jing walked to the vertical sandbag in the middle of the room, took a deep breath, fixed his eyes, and punched out. Bang! With a loud bang, Xue Jing's fist hit the sandbag hard. A circle of ripples appeared on the leather surface, and it seemed that the fist whined, and airwaves could be seen spreading. The iron base filled with sand, and weighing more than 300 kilograms suddenly tilted, and fell to the side. Xue Jing stretched out a hand to hold the sandbag, nodded, and said to himself, "It's okay. Thank you for your monthly recommendation tickets." Chapter 16 My house is pretty big. At 1:30 in the afternoon, Xue Jing arrived at school. Just like in the morning, he did not go directly to the class, but stepped into the Kingda campus again, and came to the Kingda library. Compared with the sparsely populated morning, the library at this time was quite crowded, but everyone was very quiet, and basically only the sound of pages turning could be heard. Xue Jing's arrival attracted many students' attention. A short-haired girl sitting on a chair in the lounge, holding an extracurricular reading, looked at Xue Jing, who was wearing the school uniform of the attached middle school, with sparkling eyes, and whispered excitedly to her best friend beside her, "Look, that little brother is so handsome. Let's go and ask him for his WeChat." The best friend stared at Xue Jing and complained, "Don't you like the older one? Why are you eyeing the little milk dog in the attached middle school? Even if you don't like sweets, you will still drool when you see this kind of top-notch dessert." The short-haired girl's eyes lit up. Let's go and ask him for his WeChat. You stay by my side to give me courage." As she said, she stood up from the chair. The chair was pushed away, rubbing against the floor, making a slightly sharp sound. As if hearing the movement here, Xue Jing turned his head and looked at the short-haired girl. The latter was glanced at by the cold eyes, and the whole person seemed to be poured with a basin of cold water, from the scalp to the heels, and the inner desire dissipated in an instant. It was not until Xue Jing walked up the floor and left her sight that the short-haired girl suddenly covered the full fruit on her chest and gasped for breath, like a drowning person who had just been rescued. The best friend was stunned for a moment and immediately patted her back to help her breathe and asked with concern, "What's wrong, Xiaolin? Are you okay?" The girl with a ponytail, named Xiaolin, said with lingering fear, "I don't know why. That brother seems to be in danger. I still won't ask for WeChat." Xue Jing, who didn't know how much psychological damage his careless look just now had caused to others, went straight up and came to the 7th floor. The 7th floor was as deserted as ever, in stark contrast to the popular first 6 floors. There was only one girl sitting on an old chair, holding a book. She was still sitting upright, so straight that nothing could be found wrong with her. Her light blue skinny jeans were stretched tight, like a ripe peach. It was the girl Xue Jing had met at the same place in the morning. Unlike in the morning, the girl nodded at Xue Jing after seeing him, her waist-high ponytail swaying gently, and a smile appeared on her clean and beautiful face. Xue Jing smiled, said nothing, and nodded at her. He thought this kind of silent nodding acquaintance was quite interesting. Walking into the bookshelf area, Xue Jing began to look for clues that might be related to the divine substance. Under the dim light, Xue Jing and the girl were busy with their own things, and they were clearly separated. They seemed like two unrelated passers-by, but there was also an inexplicable sense of harmony. An hour later, Xue Jing learned a lot of things that ordinary people don't know, but he still didn't get anything about divine matter. "Let's go to class first." Shaking his head, Xue Jing put the book in his hand back on the bookshelf and walked out of the library. The silent 7th floor left only the girl, like a lonely earthbound spirit imprisoned here. Only the occasional sound of pages turning could prove that she was a real person. When Xue Jing walked into his class, he found that the desks and chairs that were originally scratched by Pei Yaoguang had been replaced with a set of intact ones. It was that second-year student Pei Yaoguang who moved here and replaced your desks and chairs. A classmate who came early explained. "Is that so?" Xue Jing responded. He didn't care. The desks and chairs were stained or not, and he could sit on them. But after all, the drawer of the scratched desks and chairs had been stuffed with dirty things, so it was good to replace them. Pei Yaoguang is a sensible person, Xue Jing thought to himself. It was worth it for his sincere education. The 4 classes in the afternoon passed quickly. Xue Jing said hello to Li Jie and said that he had something to do, so he left first. Then he packed up his textbooks, put on his school bag on one shoulder, and walked out of the 3rd teaching building. There are 3 teaching buildings in the attached middle school, one for each grade, and each grade has 20 classes. Xue Jing came to the corridor of the 2nd teaching building, where the 2nd graders studied, leaned on the pillar at the door, took out his mobile phone, and waited while flipping through some explanation videos about martial arts. He looked quite eye-catching. When the 2nd graders who came out of the building saw him, they would more or less keep their eyes on him. It didn't take long. Soon, a plump young man surrounded by a group of younger brothers, with bandages on his nose and eyes, wrapped like a mummy, came out. It was Pei Yaoguang. The younger brothers next to him also had some injuries, but not as serious as Pei Yaoguang. It's what he deserves. He bullies people every day, and now he's hit a wall. Finally someone can deal with him. Pei Yaoguang and I are in the same class. In the morning, he was still talking about giving Xue Jing a hard time. It was said that it was because Lin Xiaoyu liked Xue Jing. Look, Lin Xiaoyu is out. Lin Xiaoyu, a schoolgirl wearing a school uniform skirt with long and straight legs shining in the sunset, walked out of the teaching building and saw Xue Jing. A trace of embarrassment appeared on her pretty face. She had just been rejected in the morning when she confessed her love, and now she met the person involved again. She was immediately embarrassed. Fortunately, Xue Jing didn't even look at her, as if he didn't notice her at all. Although he looked a little ruthless, which made her very disappointed, she couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Lin Xiaoyu hurriedly picked up her school bag and trotted away holding the hand of her best friend beside her. Brother Jing, you are here to learn strength from me, right? Let's go to my house. My house is quite big, and I have almost all the equipment for practicing martial arts in the dojo. Pei Yaoguang said, using his only remaining right eye to signal his younger brother. The latter immediately understood and stepped forward and said attentively, Brother Jing, let me help you carry your school bag. Okay, let's go. Xue Jing smiled, handed the school bag to his younger brother, and followed Pei Yaoguang out of the campus. Please read it, dear readers, don't support it during the new book period, otherwise you will lose my. Chapter 17, Breathing Method, Good Roots. I changed the family background and member settings of the protagonist a little bit, and the rhythm of the previous chapter was wrong, so I overhauled it. Readers who have read it can read it again, especially chapters 15 and 16. I'm sorry for causing trouble to everyone. Thank you all for your monthly ticket recommendation tickets. I'm a newbie and feel unworthy. I can only work hard to write in return. Qingcheng has 4 major urban areas, east, south, west, and north. There has always been a saying that the east is rich and the west is poor, the north is noble and the south is humble, which roughly explains the division of residents in Qingcheng. Most of the residents in Dongcheng district are rich people, and the headquarters of large companies and enterprises are basically located here. It can be said that every inch of land is worth a lot of money. The Bicheng district is full of dignitaries and has extremely high security. The location here is not a matter of every inch of land worth a lot of money, but a matter of money not being able to buy it. Zicheng district is where most ordinary people live, and it is also where Xue Jing's family is. Of course, this statement is not absolute, nor does it mean that those who live in Dongcheng district are definitely rich and those who live in Zicheng district are definitely poor. After all, this is just a rough division. But there is nothing wrong with the saying that the south is humble in Nancheng district. It was a real slum, the final destination of all the crimes in a city. It was not the law, but the gangs that governed it. Even the Public Security Bureau could not control it. Many criminals disappeared as soon as they got in. They could not be found at all. Only the security companies behind the gangs could have a say here. However, Xue Jing had never been to Nancheng district. Since he was a child, his parents and other elders had repeatedly warned him not to get close to it, so he did not know the specific situation. He only heard about it from others. He really did not expect that Pei Yaoguang, who was said by his classmates to have a strong background, actually lived in Nancheng district. Although it was only on the outskirts of Nancheng, close to the West City area, it was more or less on the edge of the slums. Brother Jing, come in. In front of a house that looked quite large, Pei Yaoguang took out the key and opened the door, saying to Xue Jing. The appearance of the house was quite old, with a square floor plan and a large front yard. The surface of the white brick wall was full of mottled traces of time and was seriously oxidized and yellowed. The surroundings of the house were also backward and dilapidated. There were many bottles and cans of garbage on the street. It looked like no one had cleaned it for a long time. Xue Jing shook his head and followed Pei Yaoguang into the house. Unexpectedly, in contrast to the old appearance of the house, the interior decoration was quite good, with grey imitation wood grain floors, a large plush carpet in the middle of the living room, and all kinds of furniture. At first glance, it was not very tasteful, but at least quite harmonious. Xue Jing took off his shoes, walked into the living room, hung his school bag on a hook on the wall by the door, chose a single sofa and sat down, and said, "Do you live alone?" Pei Yao Guang, who was taking a drink out of the refrigerator, paused and nodded. "Yes." Xue Jing asked in a casual tone, "Why do you live here? Isn't your father working for the councillor? Even if you can't enter the North City District, you can at least live in the East City District, right?" Pei Yao Guang threw a bottle of soda to Xue Jing, opened one for himself, took a big sip, sighed happily, and then said, "My relationship with my father is not very good. This house belongs to my mother. She left it to me after she died. I moved here 2 years ago, after I had a fight with my father. There is a Jinfeng dojo nearby. It is said that the owner of the dojo came from the Inner Ring City and is a successor of the Golden Wind White Rainbow Sword. After I moved here, I entered the Jinfeng dojo and practiced martial arts with the master there for a few months. Later, something happened and I left the dojo." Xue Jing nodded. "Is that so? It seems that Pei Yao Guang's life is not easy. However, if you look closely, everyone has some stories, and he is not interested in understanding them, so he stood up and said, without further delay, start teaching me strength. This is his only purpose for coming here." Pei Yao Guang stood up and threw the empty drink bottle in his hand into the trash can, saying, "Okay, Brother Jing, come with me, let's go to the practice room." This is a large room of about 70 square meters. The room is covered with a thick cushion, which is filled with various fitness equipment and some machines that Xue Jing cannot understand the purpose of. In the center of the room were several fist piles and sandbags, made of different materials, all of which looked worn, obviously being used frequently. If you want to develop strength, the most important thing is breathing. In the training room, Pei Yao Guang began to explain, following the old master in the dojo. Strength is the kinetic energy generated by the movement of the internal organs of the human body, but we humans have very little control over our own bodies. We cannot control the flow of blood, nor can we control the internal organs. Even the muscles can only be simply tightened or relaxed. Therefore, we must first learn how to affect these parts that we cannot control at ordinary times, and this requires the use of breathing methods. Next, I will teach you a set of breathing methods, which is a basic breathing method that every disciple in the dojo knows. Through this set of breathing methods, you can exert influence on the inside of your body. Pei Yao Guang finished speaking and sat cross-legged on the cushion. "Come on, Brother Jing, follow me." Xue Jing followed his instructions and sat down with his legs crossed, imitating Pei Yao Guang. Then Pei Yao Guang began to explain the specific steps of the breathing method, demonstrating while letting Xue Jing follow. The breathing method is not too complicated, but it is very difficult. In some steps, the interval between inhalation and exhalation is extremely long, and a large amount of oxygen needs to be inhaled in one breath. Such a large amount of oxygen rushes into the lungs. People who do not have a good lung capacity are not even qualified to practice. Pei Yao Guang thought that Xue Jing would definitely not be able to keep up with the first breathing method practice. When he practiced it himself, it took him a full month to barely complete a complete breathing method practice. Therefore, he was still joking and wanted to see how embarrassing brother coughed, but after a whole set of breathing methods, he was shocked. Xue Jing actually followed the whole process and successfully completed the complete basic breathing method in the first practice. "It's over?" Xue Jing, who was not used to inhaling a large amount of oxygen, felt dizzy, his heart beat very fast, he felt nauseous, and wanted to vomit. His vision was blurred, and his whole body seemed to be burning with fire. This is because a large amount of oxygen enters the blood through the alveoli, causing the blood to circulate at an overspeed, which raises his body temperature. It's very embarrassing, but he finished it. "Brother Jing, awesome." Pei Yao Guang was really impressed and gave him a thumbs up. Only people like him who have practiced know how difficult it is to practice breathing techniques, but Xue Jing actually did it the first time. Maybe this is what the master calls a good bone. Pei Yao Guang was envious. As long as you get used to the breathing techniques, practice them often, and even turn them into your instincts and use them all the time, you can continuously improve your physical fitness. However, I haven't done this yet. At present, I can't practice breathing techniques too many times a day, otherwise my body can't bear it. Once you get used to it, you can gradually feel the rhythm inside your body when you breathe. When you learn what kind of breathing can affect them, or even control them, the strength will naturally be developed. Pei Yaguang said. Xue Jing closed his eyes and calmed down the various burdens he had, after practicing breathing techniques for the first time. After a long time, he opened his eyes and said, "Teach me again." Pei Yaguang said worriedly, "You have just started breathing. Just practice once today and continue tomorrow. Otherwise, I'm afraid your body will not be able to bear it." Xue Jing shook his head. "It's okay, continue." He has memorized most of the steps of the breathing method, but he needs to do it again to consolidate his memory and ensure that there are no mistakes. Please read. Please vote for the monthly ticket. Chapter 18, Money for Life. Following Pei Yaguang to practice the complete breathing method again, Xue Jing completely memorized all the details of the breathing method. The symptoms of this breathing method were the same as the first time, very uncomfortable, but better than the first time, as if he had adapted a little. Pei Yaguang was also a little uncomfortable at this time, because he had practiced the breathing method twice in a row. He touched his head and exclaimed, "Not only did I successfully complete the cycle of the breathing method for the first time, but I also did it twice in a row. If the old master in the dojo knew about this, I'm afraid he would be shocked." Xue Jing slowly calmed down the burden of the breathing method and said, "Yaguang, thank you this time." Pei Yaguang was flattered and hurriedly said, "Hey, what are you saying thank you for? Brother Jing, you are willing to let me teach you, that's giving me face." Although he said this sentence with some flattering meaning, he really felt it. For someone like Xue Jing, you can tell with your knees that he has a bright future. Now that he can take advantage of his humbleness and talk to Xue Jing about the favor of teaching and imparting knowledge, he feels that he should be lucky. This basic breathing method is not worth much, and being able to use it to establish a relationship with a promising figure can be said to be a huge profit. Pei Yaguang sighed, "It's a pity that I don't have the secret medicine of the dojo here. The breathing method must be practiced with the secret medicine to achieve the best effect. I remember that the master called this process blood washing. He said that blood is the fundamental power source of the body. The cleaner and better the blood, the stronger the power it provides. Each dojo has a different blood washing secret method. If you enter a dojo in the future, you may be able to get in touch with it." Xue Jing listened to him and opened the panel to take a look. You practice the breathing method once, and the fitness experience value was plus 16. You practice the breathing method once, and the fitness experience value was plus 16. Fitness LV2, 463 over 500. After running the breathing method twice, the fitness experience value actually increased by more than 30 points. Pei Yaguang said that the breathing method can improve physical fitness, but I didn't expect the effect to be so good. It takes about 15 minutes to complete a breathing method cycle, which means more than 60 points in an hour. If you go to the gym specifically, you can gain about 100 points of fitness experience in an hour. Breathing methods seem to be less efficient than specialized fitness, but things cannot be calculated that way. Fitness requires special equipment and a special environment, while breathing methods can be performed anytime and anywhere. If you can keep the breathing method running for 24 hours, then he can gain more than 1,400 points of fitness experience by hanging up for a day. What an exaggerated increase. Of course, this is not possible at the moment. Breathing methods put a heavy burden on the body. After 2 consecutive complete cycles, he felt that he could not continue for the time being, otherwise he would really hurt himself. However, in any case, Xue Jing was very satisfied with having another way to increase fitness experience anytime and anywhere. After about 20 minutes, Xue Jing felt that he had completely recovered. He stood up, looked around, and suddenly his eyes lit up and looked at a machine in the corner. Pei Yaguang noticed his gaze and smiled. "That's a dynamometer. Brother Jing, do you want to try it?" Xue Jing nodded. Pei Yaguang, "Okay, I'll open it for you." He ran to the back of the dynamometer and pressed a button. The screen on the dynamometer stand lit up, showing the results of the last test. 1472 N. The data unit of this machine is N, which is Newton. Pei Yaguang explained. 1472 newtons. converted to kilograms, which is easier to understand, is about 150 kilograms. Pei Yaguang was a little proud. This is the data I got with my strength the day before yesterday. It's fierce, isn't it? Xue Jing smiled. Yeah, it's quite fierce. After a pause, let me try. Pei Yaguang saw this and immediately gave up his position. Xue Jing walked forward, took a stance, took a deep breath, aimed at the slightly worn leather cushion on the dynamometer, and suddenly punched. Bang! With a loud bang, the entire heavy dynamometer shook slightly, and the numbers on the screen on the stand began to jump continuously, and then stopped. 1773 N. Pei Yaguang's eyes widened slightly. What the hell? 1773 N, converted into weight, is about 181 kilograms. Brother Jing, you didn't actually practice it, and you came here to lie to me? Pei Yaguang exclaimed. No strength, pure brute force. 1773 N, that's already 180 kilograms. Too much. He touched his bandaged nose. No wonder my nose was almost knocked off at noon. Xue Jing laughed. How is it? Okay. Pei Yaguang nodded repeatedly. That's great, brother. If you learn how to use strength, you can immediately take the professional martial arts test. Xue Jing didn't reply, but looked at the machine with many buttons next to him. Curiously, what is that? Pei Yaguang smiled and said, that's for practicing reaction. There are many buttons on it, just like whack-a-mole. Press the button that lights up immediately, the faster the better. After staying at Pei Yaguang's house until nearly 8 o'clock in the evening, Xue Jing made an appointment to come often during this period, and then he said goodbye and left. Before leaving, Pei Yaguang asked if he could be exempted from the self-review recitation tomorrow morning, but was rejected by Xue Jing. Before, he was asked to study because he wanted to punish this school bully, but now he was asked to study because Xue Jing really wanted to do it for his own good. Carrying a reputation as a murderer is no joke. Pei Yaguang was too young to understand the consequences, or he vaguely understood the consequences, but was a bit bad for some reason. But Xue Jing didn't want him to ruin himself. Although he had done many wrong things before, as long as he didn't make absolute mistakes of principle, he still had a chance to correct them. Xue Jing walked on the street. Although it was only 8 o'clock in the evening, this street in the South City was very quiet, with only a few shops still on. The evening breeze blew, blowing the bottles, cans, newspapers and plastic bags on the street everywhere, echoing in the quiet street. Xue Jing carried his school bag on one shoulder and walked towards the nearest bus stop with a natural look. Behind him, in an alley a few dozen meters away, there were several people hiding, staring at his back with ill intentions. One of the men, who had a tuft of white hair in front of his head, chuckled and said, "It's rare to meet a fat sheep outside, so late at night. Look at the school uniform he's wearing. Is he from the affiliated high school of King University?" Standing in the middle of the group, a middle-aged man with a long scar on his right cheek took a deep puff of the cigarette he was holding and slowly exhaled. He was wearing a sleeveless black sweatshirt and a dragon tattooed on his muscular right arm. "You're still wandering around Ariza Gang's territory, so late at night. It's unreasonable not to leave something behind. If you can afford the tuition for the affiliated high school, you can probably afford to buy your life, right? Please read and vote for me." Chapter 19 Night Raid. Dark night. Xue Jing walked on the streets outside the South City. The narrow and unprofessional planned blocks, all the buildings were crowded together in a mess. These houses were generally very old, and some could not even be called houses, but just sheds made of a few pieces of iron sheets and wooden boards. The building materials of these houses were obviously inferior, lacking basic maintenance for a long time, and some places were already dilapidated. There were canned garbage flying on the ground, and the uneven concrete ground was full of puddles. Several stray dogs stared at Xue Jing, as if waiting for something. Xue Jing stopped. Obviously, there was no one in the street, but he had a very strange feeling. Just like the calm before the storm, the dark night seemed to be gestating a terrifying beast, and there was a faint inexplicable fetal movement that was expanding and contracting. That was his heartbeat. Obviously, he did not use the breathing method, but the blood in his body suddenly began to circulate faster, and his body temperature began to rise, almost boiling. The hair on his back stood up, and his scalp felt numb, as if an extremely sharp knife was placed on his neck, and the blade was slowly rubbing against his flesh. Without any reason, without the help of any senses, the fighting instinct hidden in the deepest part of his body was reminding him that there was danger. Without any hesitation, Xue Jing chose to trust his instinct. Run. On the street, Xue Jing crouched slightly, his thigh muscles tightened, and the leg power brought by running instantly burst out, and he rushed out of the street. Just as he suddenly started to run wildly, shouts and curses came from the gaps between the houses. Damn, he found out. If you want to run, catch up. Fuck, this bastard runs so fast. In various hidden alleys, more than a dozen figures emerged and chased Xue Jing. Most people held various weapons in their hands, knives, sticks, machetes, baseball bats. The clanging sound of iron weapons being dragged on the ground was endless. It was obvious that this was not the first time for these people to do this. With Xue Jing as the center, everyone's position had almost formed an encirclement. As long as Xue Jing's action was a dozen seconds later, the encirclement would be completely formed, and there would be absolutely no escape. And now, there were only two people blocking him in front of him. Chengzi, Xiaoli, stop him. The people behind him were shouting. Xue Jing looked at the two people on the road in front of him, a thin boy wearing a red t-shirt and holding a baseball bat, and a young man with a crew cut with empty hands and a sinister look. The distance between Xue Jing and the two people gradually narrowed. Although he was about to make contact, he did not have any intention of slowing down. The young man with a crew cut did not move, and the young man with a baseball bat took 2 steps forward, holding the bat and posing as if he was going to hit Xue Jing, who was rushing towards him like a baseball. Closer and closer. Just as the thin boy's eyes focused and swung the bat, Xue Jing's body suddenly lowered without slowing down at all. The whistling bat passed over his head, brushing a few strands of hair. At the same time, Xue Jing, who was squatting, clenched his right hand, and when he stood up, he threw a fierce uppercut and rising dragon punch at the chin of the thin boy. With his aiming skills, he punched with unparalleled accuracy and hit the boy's chin directly. Bang! With a loud bang, accompanied by the sound of bone cracking, Xue Jing felt the touch of something smashed in his fist. The strong inertia brought by running all the way, plus his 180 kilograms of punching force, the violent kinetic energy made the thin boy fly nearly 1 meter in the air by this punch. When he landed, he rolled his eyes and did not move. His neck twisted into an exaggerated arc, and the skin on his chin was uneven. Obviously, his mandible had been completely broken. Xiaoli. Damn, this kid is a bit prickly, be careful. The people chasing behind him exclaimed. Xue Jing did not stop at all, just paused slightly, and continued to rush forward. The remaining young man with a buzz cut had a nonchalant expression at first, but after what happened just now, he obviously understood that Xue Jing was not an ordinary weak student. His expression became serious. He raised his hands, bent his knee slightly, and took a boxing stance. He was fully prepared, confident that no matter what angle Xue Jing attacked from, he would be able to react. As long as he blocked this fast-running student for a while, the companions behind him would be able to catch up, and then he would be able to catch the turtle in the jar and beat the dog behind the door. He was ready, with a serious face, looking at Xue Jing, who was approaching rapidly. Left fist, right fist, or kick? But just when he was about to make contact with Xue Jing, at the most tense moment, Xue Jing ignored him and ran past him directly. The young man with a buzz cut was stunned. He seemed to see that Xue Jing, who passed by him, looked at him strangely, as if to say, "What are you doing? Fuck you." The young man with a buzz cut blushed instantly, cursed angrily, turned around and chased Xue Jing. On the street outside the South City district, Xue Jing was running in front, and more than a dozen people were chasing him. After a few minutes, everyone stopped one after another as they watched Xue Jing's figure getting farther and farther away. This bastard, how can he run so fast? Someone panted, propped up his tired body with a machete in his hand, and spoke intermittently. "It's fucked up. I've been hunting geese all day, but the geese pecked my eyes. This time I'm really screwed. I didn't catch anyone, and I also hurt a brother. What should I do? Brother Duan is still waiting in the warehouse. I can't even finish this little thing. I don't know what will happen to him." What else can I do? People. A young man with dyed hair stopped talking before he finished. At the corner at the end of the street, Xue Jing, who was about to run out of their sight, suddenly stopped, turned around slowly, and looked at them. Hey, that bastard can't run anymore, right? Someone sneered. Let's go. This bastard wasted our efforts. We must teach him a lesson later. My tweezers for extracting teeth are almost rusty. This guy looks like a dog. He is popular with girls who like pretty boys. I don't know if he can still be like this without teeth. Everyone laughed and walked towards Xue Jing. The shouting and footsteps behind him gradually disappeared. Xue Jing knew that he was out of danger. The accelerated heartbeat brought by the sense of crisis slowly subsided, but a rage gradually burned in his heart. Damn, a bunch of people suddenly appeared and chased him like a dog. No matter what the reason was, he remembered this grudge. Reason told him that he should leave now and not take risks. It would be safer to come back after he became stronger. There is a long way to go. It is never too late for a gentleman to take revenge. Sensibility told him, screw reason. He slowly turned around and looked at the dozen figures across the street. He opened the panel and confirmed the passive effect of twins, and he suddenly felt confident. He looked around on the ground and saw half a fist-sized red brick not far away. Xue Jing picked up the half-red brick and weighed it with his hand. Under the surprised gazes of the dozen people, he walked towards them slowly with a blank expression and steady steps. Please read more. Chapter 20 Gorilla. HMM. What does this guy want to do? Seeing Xue Jing walking towards them, someone asked in confusion. Wait, what is he holding in his hand? A short-haired young man suddenly pointed at Xue Jing's right hand. Brick. He doesn't think that picking up a brick from the ground will be intimidating. What can a brick do? Someone said disdainfully and weighed the metal baseball bat in his hand. Everyone walked towards Xue Jing with a grin. On the quiet night street, on one side were a dozen gangsters in groups, and on the other side were a student in school uniform who was alone and weak. Both were slowly approaching each other. Xue Jing walked forward, while relying on the instinctive throwing feeling brought by aiming, estimating the distance. When the distance between the two sides was less than 20 meters, Xue Jing stopped. Almost. Generally feeling that this was an excellent throwing distance, Xue Jing followed the feel of his hand and raised the half-red brick in his hand that was as big as a fist. That kid wants to throw a brick. Be careful. Someone warned. As soon as he finished speaking, the head of a young man with a bus card next to him suddenly exploded. Bang. The red brick fragments splattered everywhere, leaving several wounds on his face, and many fragments also drilled into his eyes, causing him to scream. The young man with a bus cut who was hit in the head by the brick had already fallen to the ground without a sound, with a huge gap on his forehead, and blood was gushing out. Fuck. What the hell? Someone was shot. No, this is the brick thrown by that kid. Shenghua fainted. Damn it, get him, hurry up. In the chaos, some people went to help the young man who was shot in the head. Some were stunned, but most of them immediately rushed towards Xue Jing. However, the moment Xue Jing threw half a red brick, he turned back without hesitation and started running again. Fuck, chase him. Don't run, you little bastard. I'm going to kill your whole family. Fuck you. After a few minutes, everyone stopped panting and looked at the back of the school uniform in the distance. It was really impossible to catch up. And the moment they stopped, Xue Jing also stopped and slowly turned around. Everyone had a bad premonition. Soon, their premonition came true. The streets of Nancheng district were nothing but all kinds of garbage. Xue Jing picked up a 500 milliliter glass beer bottle from the ground. Seeing this scene, the gangsters immediately became confused. Fuck, find a cover. Get out of the way, hide here. Some people pushed each other to compete for a hiding place in a plastic trash can. Scatter quickly, scatter quickly. In a panic, a glass beer bottle whizzed in and accurately shot one of the tall and thin young men who couldn't dodge in time. Bang. The tall and thin young man covered his head, blood constantly flowing out from his fingers. He has nothing in his hand. Hurry up. He seemed to be a small leader. When the people around him saw him giving orders, they hurriedly walked out of their shelters. But at this time, Xue Jing had already run far away. Everyone looked at each other, not knowing whether to chase him. Why are you standing there? Chase him. The tall and thin young man said angrily. Seeing this, everyone could only chase Xue Jing again. After chasing 3 or 4 times in a row, everyone's physical strength was not good enough when running at full speed. This time, it didn't take long for most people to chase him. As soon as they slowed down, Xue Jing immediately noticed it and stopped. Everyone swallowed their saliva and looked at the good-looking boy in school uniform slowly turning around with some fear. Seeing Xue Jing pick up something from the ground again, some people in the crowd couldn't hold it anymore. Run. Hearing this shout, the crowd, who had already been preparing to retreat, immediately scattered like birds and beasts, desperately trying to get into the nearby bunkers. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. I was here first. Why the fuck are you pushing? Get out of the way. Fuck you. Pounce on the guy. Diulei Laomao, Lin Bei Ganlen's mother. Facing an enemy that they could never catch up with and would be shot in the head by a lucky audience randomly selected if they stopped. Everyone felt a sense of fear from the bottom of their hearts. Regret. An extremely regretful emotion enveloped everyone's heart. Damn, which idiot said he wanted to arrest this attached middle school student? Question mark? Swish. A rusty steel bar that was more than 30 centimeters long and as thick as a finger flew straight towards the crowd like a sharp arrow. Puff. A gangster hiding behind a shed with iron plates looked at the steel bar that had pierced through the thin iron plate in front of him and was only a few centimeters away from shooting him in the head, and tears fell on the spot. His legs went limp and he fell to the ground. He looked up and saw Xue Jing in the distance bending down again and picking something up from the ground. Oh my god. The gangster immediately cried and ran away from Xue Jing as if he had 2 less legs. But before he could run far, a small piece of concrete flew from a distance and hit the back of his head accurately, exploding a pile of stone powder and splitting his head. Run, run, run. The crowd had no intention of resisting at all. They were terrified and ran in the direction they came from. So, the situation was reversed. At night in the southern city, a strange scene appeared on the outer streets. A dozen social youths with various dyed hair and tattoos ran away crying, and a good-looking student wearing the school uniform of the attached middle school, who looked like a good boy, kept chasing them. From time to time, the students would pick up some hard garbage from the ground and throw it at the crowd in front. Every time they threw it, they hit the target accurately, and the sound of headshots came one after another. The weapons in their hands also fell to the ground, becoming props for Xue Jing to throw. Here they come, again. Brother. Dad, Grandpa. Please, don't throw it away. I surrender, don't throw it away. Everyone ran away, shouting. The noise was so loud that it alarmed the residents in the neighborhood. They opened their windows and looked out. Seeing such an outrageous scene, they were immediately amazed. Hey, isn't that the Razor Gang? What happened? Did another gang break in to grab the territory? No. Why is there a student? It seems that he is still wearing the school uniform of the attached middle school. Hey, this is strange. Why are they being chased by a student? A yellow-haired young man couldn't run anymore, so he stopped and gasped. At this time, a nightmare-like figure came to his side. The yellow-haired young man turned around and saw Xue Jing standing in front of him with an expressionless face, looking at him with cold and sharp eyes, holding a metal baseball bat in his hand. Okay, spare my life, sir. The yellow-haired young man knelt down very smoothly, pleading with fear in his eyes. Bang! The whistling baseball bat hit his left ear hard, knocking him sideways for several meters, and he lay limply on the ground, motionless. Xue Jing picked up the bloody baseball bat and slowly walked towards the remaining thugs who could hardly run anymore. The baseball bat dragged on the ground, and the metal surface rubbed against the concrete floor, making a clanging sound. His footsteps were neither fast nor slow, and every step seemed to be stepping on everyone's heart. Step by step. It was fun to read, right? Dear readers, please keep reading. Please vote for me please. Chapter 21 is a victory for martial arts. I was wrong, brother. I was wrong please. Don't. Bang. Wait. We are from the Razor Gang. You. Bang. Sigh. Can we reconcile? Bang. On the street, the scattered Razor Gang members who were exhausted and lying on the ground were like golf balls. Xue Jing walked up to them with a metal baseball bat, one after another, and no matter what they said, He shot them in the head with a stick. Soon, there was only one young man with a crew cut who was still lying on the field. Xue Jing slowly walked to the young man with a crew cut. The metal baseball bat in his hand had been hit too many times and too hard, and the surface was already dented in many places and covered with blood. "I'm curious," he said. "As a harmless student, it's normal for me to come to my classmate's house to play. There's nothing wrong with that. I never cause trouble on weekdays. I won't drive my car onto the wide sidewalk when there's a traffic jam. I'll just pay for food that doesn't taste good enough in a restaurant. I'm even more scared when I meet hooligans like you. I always take a detour with my tail between my legs. Not to mention that I've never been to South City District, so there's no way I've ever accidentally provoked you. So what do you guys want to do to me when you suddenly rush out?" Xue Jing's tone was not harsh, as if he was chatting casually with a friend. But the fear on the face of the crew cut young man deepened as Xue Jing spoke. Until the last word, his legs softened, and he sat on the ground, waving his hands repeatedly and saying, "No, that's not happening, brother. We were just passing by." Before he finished speaking, Xue Jing swung a stick and hit him on the ankle. The sound of bone cracking was heard, and the young man's ankle twisted into a twisted arc. "Just answer the questions honestly, don't make unnecessary excuses. Didn't your teacher teach you that?" Yes. The young man with the crew cut was sweating with pain, and he hurriedly said, "We are the subordinates of Brother Duan caping of the Razor Gang. Brother Duan just saw you walking alone on the street, wearing the school uniform of the affiliated high school, and wanted to kidnap you and blackmail your family." Xue Jing shook the baseball bat in his hand and said, "Then where is this Brother Duan?" "Brother Duan thinks that you are a student, so he doesn't need to take action. So let us do it, and he will wait in a warehouse on the next street." The young man with the crew cut spoke very quickly, fearing that he would displease Xue Jing, and hit him with a stick again. "Is this Brother Duan very powerful?" Xue Jing asked. "Brother Duan is a core member of the Razor Gang, and he is qualified to have the razor tattooed on his chest. He used his relationship with the gang leader to enter the Golden Wind Dojo to practice martial arts. I have only seen him fight once, and he cut a can of coke in half with his bare hands, just like holding a razor." Xue Jing narrowed his eyes. Golden Wind Dojo. He had just heard Pei Yao Guang mention it, and the latter entered this dojo to practice martial arts and learn strength. It seems that this dojo is not a good place to let such a gang member who kidnaps and extorts at every turn to practice martial arts. No wonder it is located in the South City District. If you can cut a can of coke with your bare hands, it will be easy to cut your throat. Your martial arts value is not low. Xue Jing's eyes showed a thoughtful look. After this incident, he is now facing off against the Razor Gang. He has injured so many of them. Although the reason is 100% due to this group of people who are desperate to attack him, he does not believe that the gang members will reason with him. Xue Jing first thought about the possibility of silencing him, but immediately realized that this was unrealistic. Regardless of whether he could do it or not, the noise he made along the way was too loud. It was estimated that many people saw it. Just ask any witness and follow the clues to find him. Then there is no way out. Xue Jing thought about it and asked, "Give me a detailed introduction to your Razor Gang." He paused. "How big is your sphere of influence? How powerful are you? How many core members like Brother Duan do you have?" The young man with the crew cut was stunned for a moment, pondered for a while, and said, "Our Razor Gang is one of the 7 gangs outside Nancheng District. Several nearby streets are our gang's territory. There are dozens of core members like Brother Duan." Xue Jing narrowed his eyes. "What is the relationship between your gang leader and Jinfeng Dojo?" "The gang leader is the true disciple of the owner of Jinfeng Dojo." Hearing this, Xue Jing had a headache. As he thought, if you pull out a carrot, you will bring out the dirt. This kind of local gang has various intertwined relationships. If you provoke one, a lot of things will be involved. After beating up the Razor Gang, will he also beat up the Golden Wind Dojo? What will come out after beating up the Golden Wind Dojo? Isn't this endless? Sigh. Can we reconcile? But it's not that there is no way out. Xue Jing felt that he could take advantage of the situation. The Golden Wind Dojo is behind the Razor Gang, but there are more than one dojo in Qingcheng. Dojos are open for business. You can become a disciple and practice martial arts by paying money. Xue Jing didn't believe it. He has invincible talents and amazing wisdom. Which dojo will he not be treated seriously? You have someone behind the Razor Gang, and you are powerful, right? I will be as powerful as you soon. He even thought of a trick. Get ahead and pay money to enter the Golden Wind Dojo. When the Razor Gang comes to trouble him, I admit that you are very powerful, but if I choose to join directly, how will you deal with it? However, he now has a very bad impression of the Golden Wind Dojo and the Razor Gang. Unless he has no choice, he doesn't want to do this. Xue Jing felt a sense of urgency. He didn't have much pressure before. Although he wanted to practice martial arts, he was not in a hurry. But now he must find a way to raise money to enter the dojo as soon as possible. Thank you for the news, Xue Jing said to the young man with a crew cut. The latter smiled flatteringly and said, "You're welcome, brother. This is what I should do. Do you think you can just ignore me?" Xue Jing nodded. "Okay, I'll give you a chance." After saying that, he looked around and picked up a few stones from the ground not far away. When the young man with the crew cut saw this scene, his PTSD was acting up, and he had a bad feeling in his heart. "Run, I'll only count to 10. Xue Jing tossed the stone in his hand. 1. Brother, look at my foot. The shaved young man pointed at his broken foot with a sad face. 2. Wait, can you start counting again? 3. The shaved young man gritted his teeth, endured the severe pain in his ankle, stood up with the help of the wall, and hopped across the street. 4. But he could not walk fast, because he could only move one foot. 5. The sound of counting came from behind him like a death sentence. He hurriedly accelerated, but accidentally fell to the ground. 6. He tried to get up, but he was too anxious, and touched his injured ankle, and fell again in pain. 7. He rolled and crawled forward. 8. Up. He screamed in fear. 9. 10. Xue Jing looked at the shaved young man who had not run 20 meters, and threw a stone. Bang. The last headshot of the night rang out. Xue Jing looked at the corpses lying around him, then looked at the stone in his palm, squeezed it tightly, and said confidently, "It is a victory for martial arts." Seeking to read more? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 22, Stone Throwing Immortal. Ning Fengwen, the leader of the dragon cult, will take charge of the matter for you. You have experience to battle. Fitness experience plus 225. You have experience to battle. Aiming experience plus 267. You have experience to battle and feel very comfortable. Health experience plus 69. You have experience to battle. Fighting experience plus 128. You have made full use of your leg strength in the battle. Running experience plus 336. Fitness increased to LV3, 188 over 800. Aiming increased to LV2, 169 over 500. Health increased to LV2, 38 over 500. Running increased to LV4, 38 over 1200. Tips popped up on the panel one after another. Xue Jing closed his eyes, and a tingling and itchy feeling came from all parts of his body. He could feel that his physical fitness was increasing rapidly, wildly, and vigorously. The muscles under his skin were wriggling like living things, and his bones were becoming harder than before. The muscles in his abdomen, chest, shoulders, arms, thighs, all began to bulge and grow, and then slowly compressed, returning to their original smooth and tight appearance, as perfect as a sculpture by a god. His height increased by 2 or 3 centimeters, reaching 1.86 meters. Although his figure did not change, his weight increased by 10 kilograms. Xue Jing looked down at his clenched fists. His momentum at this moment was stronger than ever before, with an extremely domineering and crazy attitude. Who in the world could resist such a Xue Jing? Damn it, who in the world could resist him? Question mark? Great. If he had to work alone, he would have to work hard for several days to get what he got from this fight. If he could do this several times every day, he would become a superman in a few months. Xue Jing looked into the distance. Even in the pitch black night, with just a little dim light, he could see the tiny mottled scratches on the old wall dozens of meters away, as well as the small flying insects moving on it. LV2 aiming, the visual acuity increases even more exaggerated. He picked up a small stone and aimed it at the small flying insects on the distant wall. Whoosh, pop. After the crisp sound, a pool of flat insect cakes was left on the wall, as well as the yellow insect blood that was squeezed out by the impact and sprayed on the wall. Xue Jing said to himself, is it okay for me to call myself a stone throwing immortal now? Throwing stones to ask for directions? The immortal pointed the way. When he returned home, it was already 9:30. Xue Jing finally did not go to trouble doing caping Brother Duan, for two reasons. First, it was unknown how high Duan caping's martial arts value was, but it was definitely not low. It was a bit risky to rashly go to trouble him. Secondly, if he beat up Duan caping, a core member of the Razor Gang, then the Razor Gang would definitely come to trouble him next, and the Linoop that would come to trouble him would definitely be stronger than Duan caping. As long as he didn't go to Duan caping, then the current situation would be limited to the conflict between him and Duan caping, or even between him and Duan caping's younger brother, and would not directly escalate into a conflict with the Razor Gang. In this way, he would have more time to develop. Meow the cat stared at the boy who came back late with dissatisfaction. Xue Jing smiled, picked it up gently, and said while stroking its cheek, sorry, I came back late. Are you hungry? Meow the cat called softly. I'm worried about you, idiot. Feeling the warm touch of the boy's hand on his cheek, the cat squinted his eyes and enjoyed it a little. It sniffed the boy's reassuring smell, but suddenly frowned, and the tip of its pink nose twitched slightly. The smell of blood. Wait a minute, I'll make something for you right away. Xue Jing put Mayo on the sofa and walked towards the kitchen. He had already eaten at Pei Yao Guang's house and ordered takiat. Mayo looked at his back and felt worried. Did they have a fight? Or did something else happen? Yes, he wants to learn martial arts so much. Could it be that he was bullied outside? When Mayo thought of this, he couldn't sit still. This kind-hearted boy picked it up, even though he knew it was a talking demon cat, and he even cooked delicious meals for it. He was so good at petting cats, and he looked so good. How could he be bullied? Damn it, who can bully him? Who dares to bully him? Question mark? Mayo was so angry that he imagined it. Its cat face was very anthropomorphic and uncertain, and the claws on the white gloves kept popping out, retracting, popping out, and retracting. Ahahaha, the chicken soup is here. Xue Jing walked out of the kitchen with a pot of chicken soup. Because of the gains on the skill panel, he was in a very good mood and couldn't help but play a joke. But the cat, who had a lot of things in his mind, felt that the smile on his face was a forced smile. Huh? What's wrong? Don't you like chicken soup? Xue Jing looked at the cat with an anthropomorphic gloomy expression on his face in surprise. Wouldn't that be a pity? He ate too much at Pei Yao Guang's house. If the cat didn't eat, wouldn't the chicken soup be wasted? A trace of sadness appeared on his face. The cat couldn't hold it anymore. Boy, tell me, what happened? The pleasant and tender voice of a girl came from the cat's mouth. Xue Jing was stunned. Don't worry, just tell me. No matter what it is, I, the leader of the dragon cult, Ning Fengwen, will definitely take care of it for you. Mau squatted on the dining table, the cat's tail with the tail ring behind it swayed gently, and the cat's face with narrow and charming eyeliner was full of majesty. At the same time, in a warehouse on a street in Nancheng district. So, you were wiped out by that kid like this? Duan Caping sat on a cement pipe, looking at the dozen or so wounded brothers in front of him, and felt it was a bit absurd. Just an underage student, throwing a few stones, throwing a few bottles. You guys are wiped out? You guys are still out in the gangs like this? Huh. A younger brother couldn't help but say, Brother Duan, that kid is too fast. We can't catch up, and we can't run away. He throws things accurately and fiercely. There is no way to deal with it. Yes, Brother Duan, it's really not exaggerating. The brothers are really weird. Not an ordinary student. We really can't deal with him. Brother Duan, you have to do it yourself. Duan Caping waved his hand and said impatiently, "Shut up, don't you think it's not embarrassing enough? Let's talk about that kid later. I don't have time now, all of you get out." The younger brothers looked at each other and could only respond. They supported each other and walked out of the warehouse. As they left, a figure walked out from the shadows of several boxes of goods in the corner of the warehouse. Duan Caping smiled brittlely and said, "Excuse me, Mr. Yunai." The young man named Yunai was wearing a black windbreaker and a black glove covering his left arm. No skin could be seen. He was unshaven, with dark skin and a frosted face. The pupil of his right eye was shining with a green light, which seemed to be a prosthetic eye. "Stop talking nonsense. Where is Jiao Hongyan? Hurry up and ask him to come over and hand over the goods to him. We will have completed the commission of canned company." His voice was hoarse and difficult, as if he had not spoken for a long time. Hearing this, Duan Caping said carefully, "The owner of the field accompanied the little brother to Fengcheng to participate in the U19 selection competition a few days ago. He is now rushing back. Do you think you can wait a little longer?" He had no choice but to be careful. The person in front of him was a tough guy who could enter the border area and walk out alive. He could not afford to offend him. Yun Yi snorted coldly, "Still waiting? The 6th agency has already set its sights on us. The White Crow may have already entered this city. If we are caught, Kant will not be able to escape unscathed. Don't think I don't know what Kant wants this Shiangsu insect mother for. If this matter is exposed, those living in Kangting will be furious. You can think about it yourself." Duan Caping didn't understand most of what Yun Yi said, nor did he dare to understand. He just smiled and apologized. "In the last 3 days, if you don't come to get it, I will hand it over to the country. Maybe I will say something by the way." After Yun Yi finished speaking, he chuckled twice, walked out of the warehouse door, and then his figure suddenly disappeared. Duan Caping was covered in cold sweat. He always felt that he had heard too many things that he should not hear, but he had no choice but to take out his mobile phone tremblingly and dial the number of the owner Jiao Hongyan. The world view is about to be officially unfolded, and Xue Jing is about to take off. Please follow me. Chapter 23, Master. "So, you were not beaten by someone, but you beat someone else?" At the dinner table, Mao stood up on her 2 hind legs, with her front paws folded across her chest, like a majestic cat lady. Her face was full of speechlessness. She was so worried that she didn't even bother to play dumb and keep silent, but she didn't expect that things would be completely the opposite of what she thought. Xue Jing's appearance was too deceptive, so elegant that anyone who saw him for the first time would think he was an intellectual scholar. Even though Mao had seen that he had trained his muscles well, she subconsciously thought that he was the one who would be bullied. "Thank you for worrying about me so much, Zarawan." Xue Jing chuckled. Then, he saw that Mao stood up with his hands folded across his chest, which was so cute that he couldn't help but reach out and pinch its cheek. This fight was worth it, and there was an extra reward. Unintentional planting of willows has led to shades. Mao, who was reluctant to speak, was worried because he was stained with the blood of the Razor Gang thugs. While feeling somewhat touched, Xue Jing couldn't help but find it funny. "Don't call me Zio1, you must respectfully call me Master." The cat, whose real name is Ningfeng Wan, stretched out her paws and slapped Xue Jing's hand away, saying in shame and anger. Xue Jing didn't think the young girl's voice had any deterrent power at all. He nodded and smiled. "Okay, Master Zio1." Then he stretched out his hand again, touched the cat's head, and rubbed it back and forth. If it were a comic, Ningfeng Wan's forehead would have been bulging with veins at this time. She used her 2 white gloves to try to stop Xue Jing's touch, but it didn't work at all. She said angrily, "Respect the elders a little." It was okay when she pretended to be a cat before. She could deceive and comfort herself that she was a cat, and being touched was no big deal, and she even enjoyed it a little. But now that her identity has been completely exposed, and she is being flirted like this, Ningfeng Wan's sense of shame as a human being instantly spread from the tips of her toes to the top of her head. Xue Jing saw that it was indeed a little anxious, so he withdrew his hand. He asked curiously, "Elder? How old are you, Zarawan?" The cat said dissatisfiedly, "You should call me the leader." After a pause, anyway, I'm older than you. When Ning Fengwen said this, her tone was a little hesitant, but Xue Jing didn't care. He touched his chin and said, the leader of the dragon cult. Is it the dragon cult in the news report? He had heard this name in the news report before. It was said that it was a gang of evil forces disguised as a religious organization and had now been destroyed by Kant Security Company. Huh. My cat is actually a gangster boss. The cat crossed its paws over its chest, raised its head and snorted proudly, and said in a childish voice, yes, it is the dragon cult. Are you scared? It was a bit cute, and Xue Jing couldn't help it. He stretched out his hands to cover its cat head and rubbed its cheeks, smiling. Scared, master. The cat gritted its teeth. How are you scared? Let go. Xue Jing took his hand back and asked, the news said that the dragon cult has been destroyed by Kant Security Company, so you are alone now? The cat stretched out its paws and gestured to the pot of chicken soup, asking Xue Jing to serve it a bowl, and then said, well, you can say that for the time being. Xue Jing picked up the spoon, filled half a bowl of chicken soup, and put a big chicken leg in the bowl, and put it in front of the cat. What are your plans for the future? The cat bit a piece of the smooth and soft chicken leg meat, chewed it, and showed a very anthropomorphic expression of enjoyment on his face. After swallowing the meat, he said, you don't need to know these. It's not good for you to know them. I'm just staying here temporarily, and will leave soon. The cat showed a serious expression. Although it was a coincidence that it still opened its mouth to communicate with the boy, the cat still wanted to avoid involving him as much as possible. Security companies are such a huge thing that even the official government has a headache with them. As an ordinary person, Xue Jing would be wiped out if Kant sneezed. Okay. Seeing that it said it seriously, Xue Jing also nodded. Then he asked casually, by the way, Xian, since you are a human, why did you become a cat? You have to call me master. The cat was dissatisfied at first, and then said, this. It stretched its tail forward, and the white and gold tail ring was somewhat reflective and flashing under the light. This is an item called God's Relic. It is said to be the legacy left by God after his death. I don't know much about it, but I know that each God's Relic has a magical power, like this one. It shook the tail ring on its tail. I bought this from a profiteer. Serial number God 1391 cat tail ring. Its power is to allow the wearer to transform into a cat. But after the transformation, you can't transform back for the time being. The corner of the cat's mouth twitched. Xue Jing's heart moved. Serial number God 1391. Are there many God's relics? The serial numbers are all ranked after 1000. Well, there should be a lot. I don't know about these. I have only seen this one God's relic. The serial number and name were also told to me by the profiteer. The cat said. Okay. Xue Jing was a little helpless. This is almost the same as saying nothing. Starting from the cat, the plan to find a way to get more divine substances has been ruined. The upgrade of twins and the unlocking of active effects are still a long way off. But it was not without gain. At least I knew that this kind of thing was called a divine relic. Judging from the serial number, there seemed to be quite a lot of them, at least more than 1000. Xue Jing looked at Meo who was eating chicken and drinking chicken soup with his head down, and suddenly thought of something and said, oh, there is one more thing. Shuo. Meo answered inarticulately while biting the chicken. Xue Jing first flattered. The leader of the dragon cult sounds very impressive. I believe you must have a lot of faith in the underworld and be well informed, right? Humph, of course. Meo raised his head proudly. It's like this. I want to enter a dojo to practice martial arts. Which dojo is more powerful? Does the leader have any recommendations? Well, if I can rely on the supreme majesty of the leader to reduce some of the tuition, it would be great. Xue Jing made a request. Meo nodded. I was just about to tell you about this. You took me in and let me eat and drink for free in your house. I have to repay this favor. I will introduce you to someone in a few days. In terms of martial arts, there should be no one better than that person in Qingcheng. Xue Jing asked curiously, who is it? The old owner of the Kanglang Dojo, Dragon Lord Li Qi. Meo uttered a name. Please read it again. Chapter 24, Bank Drugs and Old Martial Arts. Kanglang Dojo? Xue Jing raised his eyebrows. He had an impression of this dojo. When he had just awakened his panel and planned to practice martial arts, he had checked the tuition fees of various dojos in Qingcheng, and Kanglang Dojo was one of the dojos with the highest fees. However, the high tuition was not the reason why Xue Jing remembered it. It was because on the internet, Kanglang Dojo had a very high rate of negative reviews. All of them were criticizing that the teaching quality was not worthy of the tuition fees. Xue Jing's expression was a little subtle. Mayo licked his paws, yawned, and said, Kanglang Dojo has a bad reputation, but that's just the opinion of outsiders. In the circle of real martial artists, no one would underestimate Kanglang Dojo, especially the old owner Li Qi. Mayo stretched out his two front paws forward, stretched lazily, and raised his butt high. He is one of the few old martial arts masters who has never taken banned drugs, but has successfully jumped over the Dragon Gate and broken through the limits of human beings. During his peak decades ago, he had a great reputation in the Inner Ring City and was as famous as Vajrazao and Shurichen, known as Dragon King Li. Although he is just an old man sitting in a wheelchair now, he is more than enough to teach you martial arts. Xue Jing reached out and picked up Mao and put him on his lap, curiously asking, banned drugs? Jumping over the Dragon Gate? Old martial arts? What do they all mean? He felt that a brand new door was opening in front of him, and behind the door was the world of martial artists. Mao seemed to be sleepy, with his eyes half closed, and he lay down on Xue Jing's legs. The latter reached out and stroked its back along its fur, and the familiar comfort came, making it drowsy. Banned drugs are made from products from special border areas. They are extremely irritating and can cause all kinds of alienation in the body of the user, and then have non-human flesh. For example, there is a type of drug that can change the nature of a person's skin, making it as tough as steel. Some drugs can even make a person grow extra limbs and become a monster with 6 arms. Since the emergence of banned drugs, the development of martial arts has taken a completely new path. And martial artists who are unwilling to take banned drugs and insist on pursuing the limits of the human body with their original flesh are called old martial arts schools. Mao yawned. As for leaping Dragon Gate, it's too early for you, and you may not even be able to touch it in your lifetime. You don't need to know so much for the time being. After struggling to finish the last sentence, Mao's eyelids closed, curled up in Xue Jing's arms, breathing slowly, and fell asleep. Xue Jing slowly stopped stroking its back, gently picked it up, returned to the room, put Mao on his bed, and covered its body with a thin blanket, leaving only its head exposed. Then he walked out of the room lightly, took a shower in the bathroom, changed into pajamas, put the bloody school uniform into the washing machine, and then took his mobile phone to the balcony. It was already 10:30 in the evening. Xue Jing turned on the screen of his mobile phone, unlocked it with his fingerprint, and opened the dialing interface. He has a strange habit of being more cautious. He will not store notes about the numbers of his relatives in his mobile phone, so that even if his mobile phone is lost, others will not be able to defraud his relatives through his mobile phone after picking it up. Although this habit is likely to be used in a lifetime. After entering a string of numbers on the interface, Xue Jing dialed the phone. He didn't have to wait too long. After 3 or 4 beeps, the call was connected. Hello woof woof woof. A cheerful and pleasant voice came from the receiver. When he was a child, Xue Jing often played a fighting game with his sister Xue Wan, and often bet on something, or a candy, or a few pocket money. If Xue Jing lost, he would just hand over the bet honestly, and accept the loss. Xue Wan lost, but she often refused to pay, so the bets later added a sentence, if you refuse to pay, you are a dog. That day, there was one less person in the world, and one more dog. Sister, are you asleep? Xue Jing said with a smile. Do you want to listen to what you are saying? Xue Wan said unhappily. After a pause, she continued, what's the matter? Calling me at this time? Let me make it clear first, sister, I have no money. Xue Jing, what do you mean by that? Am I the kind of person who only calls you when I need money? Xue Wan, that's good. Tell me, what's the matter? Xue Jing, me 50. Beep, beep, beep. The phone was hung up by Xue Wan directly. Xue Jing smiled and called again. Tell me what's the matter, sister, I'm going to sleep. Xue Wan said helplessly. After a moment of silence, Xue Jing whispered, "Sister, what unhappy things have happened to you?" Xue Wan seemed to be stunned for a moment, and then she said with a smile, "What can happen to me? I'm fine, don't think too much." Xue Jing thought for a while, and continued to ask, "Are you really okay?" "It's really okay. You seem to have a little sister control, which is not good. If you have a girlfriend in the future, she will be jealous." Xue Wan teased. Xue Jing heard that there was indeed nothing unusual in her tone, and secretly breathed a sigh of relief. "Mom is very worried about you going to college alone in Fengcheng." Because they haven't seen each other for a long time, Xue Jing and Xue Wan still have a lot to talk about, and the two chatted for a long time. When Xue Jing hung up the phone, it was already 11 o'clock. It should be nothing, Xue Jing said to himself. There was nothing wrong with Xue Wan just now, and it should be that Mom was worried for nothing. Stretching, Xue Jing walked back into the house. He did not go back to his room to sleep, but came to the sofa in the living room and sat cross-legged. He began to practice basic breathing. An hour later, Xue Jing closed his eyes and leaned on the sofa, feeling dizzy. His whole body was emitting heat because of the overspeed circulation of blood, almost having a fever. After a long time, Xue Jing, who had recovered, opened the panel and took a look. "You have practiced breathing once. Fitness experience plus 16. You have practiced breathing once. Fitness experience plus 16. You have practiced breathing once. Fitness experience plus 16. You have practiced breathing once. Fitness experience plus 16. The physical fitness enhanced by the improvement of several skill levels, coupled with his gradual adaptation to breathing. This time he directly performed 4 complete breathing cycles in a row. Strength. Xue Jing stretched out his right arm, touched the elbow of his right arm with his left hand, and looked thoughtful. When he was practicing the breathing method just now, he seemed to have touched some key nodes. At a certain moment of breathing, the muscles of his right arm moved. Xue Jing tried to recall the feeling and recreate it, but he failed after several attempts. He was not in a hurry. Since he couldn't try it, it meant that he was not ready yet. After drinking a glass of water, Xue Jing returned to the room, lay on the bed, stroked the cat sleeping next to him with one hand, closed his eyes, and fell asleep. Transition chapter. Please read it later. Chapter 25. Use your strength to challenge the opponent. 3 days later. Xue Jing's home, in the gym. You practiced breathing once. Fitness experience plus 16. You practiced breathing once. Fitness experience plus 16. You practiced. Looking at the prompts on the panel that popped up more than a dozen times, Xue Jing felt the various rhythms produced in his body when he breathed. The stretching of bones, the operation of internal organs, the contraction and expansion of muscles. He stared at his arm in a daze. The muscles under the skin expanded and contracted with his breathing, as if they were living things with independent consciousness. I don't know how long it took, until a certain critical point, Xue Jing felt a stream of heat gushing out from all over his body, and quickly condensed towards his right arm with the rhythm of his breathing. He walked silently to the vertical sandbag in the middle of the room, bent his knee slightly, put his right hand behind his waist, and posed as if he was about to throw a straight punch. Xue Jing took a deep breath, and threw a straight punch. Bang! Compared with the punches he had thrown before, this punch was not fast and powerful, but the vertical sandbag, which weighed 300 kilograms, seemed to be hit by an oncoming car. With the place where the fist hit as the center, the entire sandbag was bent into a shrimp, flew out horizontally, and hit the wall, shaking the whole room. Conditions have been met. Activate the skill. Use strength. Use strength LV1, 0/300. In an instant, the strength that was originally only exerted by chance was quickly mastered by him, and turned into his instinct. Xue Jing's eyes were filled with joy. He immediately used the breathing method, and the internal organs of his body immediately followed his breathing and operated, producing various rhythms, converting into kinetic energy, and creating strength. Xue Jing's mind moved, and the strength flowed to his right foot, and then he raised his foot, and stepped on it. Crack! The tile floor cracked, and the reinforced concrete under the tiles also cracked a little, and the floor shook with it. Hit the floor. Use strength experience value +1. Xue Jing's mouth twitched. As soon as he had a hammer in his hand, he couldn't help but use the floor as a nail. I hope my mother won't notice it when she comes back. Mayo squatted beside him, tilting her head to look at Xue Jing, with an anthropomorphic look of disbelief on her face. You said you just came into contact with the breathing method 3 days ago. Yes. Xue Jing nodded and straightened the vertical sandbag that was knocked out by his punch. You have never been exposed to martial arts before. Mayo's tail swayed. How many times do you want to ask? Xue Jing was a little helpless. I've said it before, I have invincible talent and amazing wisdom. He said without blushing or beating his heart. Mayo rolled his eyes. Yes, I'm quite talented, but it's too early to say that I'm invincible. There are geniuses in this world who can learn strength as soon as they come into contact with the breathing method. Even some big companies can use special scientific and technological means to create such geniuses. The world is big, you just have a little talent, don't get carried away. Ning Fengwen solemnly warned. Xue Jing smiled, walked in front of it, and pinched its arrogant little face. I know. Don't touch me, and call me the leader. The cat said indifferently. Okay, Master Zhao. Xue Jing rubbed its cat head. Ning Fengwen just refuted out of habit. She had gotten used to Xue Jing's rudeness in the past 3 days. However, since you have such a talent and have already practiced strength, then we have to change the way to enter the Kanglang dojo. The cat thought for a while and said, How do you say it? Xue Jing asked in confusion. The cat jumped up and jumped onto Xue Jing's shoulder and sat down. He licked his paw and said, if you get in purely because of my relationship, then you are a real relationship household. It is inevitable that you will be looked down upon and treated differently. Then how do we get in? Teacher 1. Xue Jing saw that it looked like a little adult, which was a bit cute, and couldn't help but joked. The cat seemed quite satisfied with the title of teacher. Its tail could not help but wag, and a hint of anthropomorphic pride appeared on its little face. Of course that's the rule of the underworld, to challenge the master. On the other side, at the dock of Nancheng district, a strong old man wearing a black short coat, with grey hair, a gloomy face, and a body as tall as a 1,000-year-old pine, walked slowly into a warehouse with his hands behind his back. In the warehouse, Duan Caping and a young man in black named Yunai had been waiting for a long time. When he saw the old man coming in, Duan Caping's face suddenly became serious. He knelt down in front of him, supported himself with his hands, kowtowed and said respectfully, Caping meets the teacher. I wish the teacher good fortune as vast as the sea and longevity as long as the sky. Yunai next to him looked at this scene and sneered, as if he was disdainful. The old man, Zhao Hangyuan, the owner of the Golden Wind Dojo, did not change his expression at all. He just said to Duan Caping calmly, well, get up. Then he turned to Yunyi and said, where are the things? Yunyi shook his neck, stretched out his hand, and pointed his thumb back to a 3-meter high container in the warehouse. Knowing that you would come back today, I brought it and put it inside. Then, our transaction with Canned Company is now over. Send the remaining money too. Before he finished speaking, Zhao Hangyuan turned his eyes to him and interrupted him without any fluctuations in his tone. And, you may have forgotten that when placing the order, Canned Company clearly stated that it must be kept confidential and must not be leaked. How did you do it? You swaggered through the Edge City and rushed in directly? Now the 6th agency has intervened in the investigation. Do you know how big a trouble this is? Yunyi sneered. What do you think? Zhao Hangyuan smiled. I heard that the Shiangsu insect mother can give birth to corresponding special insect species according to the different things it is fed. I'm very curious about this. Is it true? Yunyi frowned and raised his left hand wearing an arm-covering glove without hesitation, aiming at Zhao Hangyuan and the others. However, at the same time he raised his arm, Zhao Hangyuan's strong body disappeared from the spot. Duan Caping didn't react to what happened. In a flash, Zhao Hangyuan appeared behind Yunyi and shook off the blood with his right hand. Golden Wind. White Rainbow Sword. Yunyi said the last sentence with difficulty in a hoarse voice, and his head and left hand slid down and fell to the ground. The headless body was still standing, and the cuts on the neck and arms had no edges, as if they were cut by an extremely sharp and peerless divine weapon. Master, this. Duan Caping swallowed his saliva, a little frightened. These desperate criminals are too rough in both their conduct and their work. They are lucky to die in my hands. Jiao Hangyuan said slowly. Master, what about the others? Duan Caping said worriedly. Of course, we will go down with him. Canned Company has already dealt with it. Jiao Hangyuan put his hands behind his back and looked at the 3-meter high container in front of him. He didn't know if it was an illusion, but there seemed to be some kind of beast-like breathing coming from it. Caping, where are the things I asked you to prepare? Duan Caping said respectfully. It's ready. All the cockroaches are farmed, not purchased from outside. The people are also ready. All are officially recorded as dead or missing. Jiao Hangyuan nodded with satisfaction. Prepare more. After a while, when the attention from above is shifted away from King Cheng, we can start planning. Yes. Duan Caping replied. By the way, Master, didn't the junior brother come back with you? He is still participating in the selection competition in Fengcheng. He has to play a few more games. In front of a building in Dongcheng district, Xue Jing was wearing casual clothes suitable for activities. He raised his hand to block the dazzling midday sun and looked up at the top of the building. The hidden dragon dojo is on the 17th floor. Go, go, go. The cat sat on Xue Jing's shoulder, pointed his paw upwards, and urged him. Please read more. Please read more, please. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.